Chapter 770. Seoul's Gangnam District, Wuching Dojo. This building, which covered an area of 10 acres, was originally the residence of a high-ranking military officer stationed in Korea during the Japanese occupation of Korea. Therefore, the style was more Japanese, but it retained much of the essence of Korean houses. The white walls and black tiles were hidden in the shade of the trees, creating a unique scenery. The door of the dojo was open, and the 4 gilded Chinese characters, Wuching Dojo, were hanging under the eaves of the corridor. They shone brightly under the sunlight, and the strokes were bold and vigorous. These 4 words were personally written by Li Zhiqing. He had obtained the ownership of this building 10 years ago, and used it as a place where he passed down his teachings. It had also become the 10th dojo outside of the 9 major dojos, and the core of the Wuching sect. 10 men dressed in traditional Taekwondo uniforms lined up on the left and right, greeting the visitor in the most solemn manner. They were all very young and had the vigor and arrogance of youth. As they bowed, they stared eagerly at Lu Chun, who had crossed the threshold, with sparks dancing in their eyes. Everyone knew that this man from China, who was about the same age as them, would challenge Li Zhiqing, their supreme mentor. These disciples of Li Zhiqing believed that Li Zhiqing would definitely win, so they hoped that they would be the ones to fight and defeat Lu Chun. Lu Chun ignored their gazes and calmly admired the exquisiteness of the Wuching Dojo. Whether it was Japan or Korea, traditional architecture had inherited and absorbed the essence of China's ancient architecture. This building, which had a history of nearly 100 years, was no exception. The layout was grand but not exquisite, and the vicissitudes of time had a unique charm. Li Zhiqing was standing at the door, welcoming the arrival of Lu Chun. This Korean Taekwondo master was 35 years old. He had started learning Taekwondo at the age of 5, and was taught by Choi Hongxi. However, he was also Choi Hongxi's traitor, and had a legendary life. Mr. Lu Chun, seeing Lu Chun, Li Zhiqing bowed and said, "Welcome to the Wuching Dojo." His Mandarin was very standard, and his pronunciation was even better than the standard of many Chinese people. In fact, this Taekwondo master was very respectful of the Chinese civilization. Not only could he speak fluent Mandarin, but he was also proficient in calligraphy. The surrounding Li Zhiqing's disciples couldn't help but reveal surprised expressions. Li Zhiqing rarely treated people with such respect, especially the younger generation. To have him take the initiative to shake their hands was already a great honor. Lu Chun bowed back and said, "Hello, Mr. Li Zhiqing. Please advise me." He straightened up and met Li Zhiqing's gaze. Unlike the other disciples, Li Zhiqing was wearing a traditional Korean robe today. He was tall and thin, had short hair, and had a resolute expression. His eyes were bright and full of expression. With one look, one could tell that he was the kind of person with a strong will. Li Zhiqing's arms were very long, and the joints on his hands were thick. His skin was rough and full of calluses. And the deepest impression that this Korean Taekwondo master left on Lu Chun at first sight was his aura. He didn't show any anger, but he was dignified like a mountain, as if no force could shake him. When Lu Chun was looking through information related to Li Zhiqing 2 days ago, he saw a Taekwondo master's description of him in an article. It said that as an opponent standing in front of Li Zhiqing, it was amazing to be able to remain calm. At that time, Lu Chun thought that it was exaggerated praise. Now that he had seen this master with his own eyes, he realized that the article was not fabricated. While Lu Chun was sizing up Li Zhiqing was also sizing him up. In fact, in Korea many people did not understand why Li Zhiqing wanted to challenge Lu Chun. In their opinion, Li Zhiqing was a Taekwondo master, while Lu Chun was just a celebrity. The two of them were not on the same level. In Korea, the status of a celebrity was very low. However, Li Zhiqing had never been a person who stuck to the old rules. Otherwise, he would not have established a faction outside of the 9 major Taoist temples, and challenged the influential International Taekwondo Union. The idea of challenging Lu Chun started when he saw the video of Lu Chun demonstrating the motion capture system at the Blue Numbers studio. At that time, he realized that this was an opportunity. In order to promote the Wuching style, Li Zhiqing could be said to have racked his brains. Most importantly, he felt that Lu Chun was fully qualified to be his opponent, defeated by him. Please. Today, apart from Chun Fei or Lu Shi, who had just flown over yesterday, accompanied Lu Chen to the Wucheng Martial Arts Dojo. In the hall of the Wucheng Martial Arts Dojo, 7 cameras were already in place, all aimed at the ring. In addition to the reporters and cameramen of South Korea's MBC TV, there were also live broadcast personnel from Beijing Television in China. This competition, which caused a huge sensation in China and South Korea, would be broadcast live. South Korea's second-largest TV station, MBC, won the live broadcast rights of South Korea, while China's live broadcast rights were sold to Beijing Television and Zhidong Satellite TV. After a fierce competition, Beijing Television and Zhidong Satellite TV finally continued to join forces. The two gave 30 million yuan for this live broadcast, which was equivalent to 5 billion won as a bonus fee. The reason why it was called a bonus was that the money would be obtained by the winner of both sides. Correspondingly, South Korea provided the same amount of sponsorship money. Because MBC was under too much pressure, many South Korean companies jointly sponsored 3.5 billion won, plus MBC. It was a total of 5 billion. Among them was the Samsung Consortium. This meant that the winner between Lu Chen and Li Zhiqing would not only win honor, but also a total bonus of 10 billion won. In fact, this was the result of Lu Chen's leniency and did not add other sponsorship fees. For example, the copyright of domestic online live broadcast was won by QQ Video and Whale TV, and the price has steadily exceeded 5 billion won. If Lu Chen can win the final victory, he will win at least 100 million yuan in total income. In professional boxing or kickboxing competitions in the United States, an appearance fee of tens of millions of dollars was common, and an appearance fee of hundreds of millions of dollars was not uncommon. However, in the East, whether it was taekwondo or other martial arts competitions, the prize money of tens of billions of Korean won was unique. Some South Korean netizens on FLO called this competition the Battle of 10 Billion, and it quickly spread to China. In the hall of the Wucheng Martial Arts Dojo, everyone's eyes were focused on the two. There were not many spectators at the scene. In addition to the media reporters and the students of the Wucheng Martial Arts Dojo, there were mainly witnesses of the competition, including an official representative of the China Embassy in South Korea. At 9:37 a.m. on January 5, Lu Chen, who had changed into a martial arts suit, and Li Zhiqing, who had changed into a taekwondo suit, stood in the ring at the same time. And the live broadcast had already begun. Chapter 771. Whale TV, Lu Chen vs. Li Zhiqing, Battle of 10 Billion Live Broadcast Room. The time difference between Seoul and Beijing is 1 hour, so when Seoul is 9 a.m., Beijing is 8 a.m. January 6th was Saturday, and it was morning. Normally, there wouldn't be many online members on a live broadcast platform like Whale TV. This was because young people, whether they were office workers or students, would usually be sleeping in at this time of the day. But the live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion live broadcast has been packed. Originally, Lu Chen's appointment with Li Zhiqing was on January 5th, but because of the needs of the live broadcast, it was postponed by 1 day, which also gave the live broadcast media more time to prepare. On the same day that Chunfei Media released the news, the senior executives of Whale TV anxiously took the nearest flight to Beijing and put on a posture to win the live broadcast right of the duel at any cost. Of course, Whale TV's urgency was reasonable. It was through the cooperation with Lu Chen and through a record-breaking live broadcast that this live broadcast platform gathered a lot of popularity and successfully jumped to the top of the industry. If they missed this live broadcast, it would inevitably make people doubt whether there was a problem with the cooperation between Whale TV and Lu Chen, and the members of the platform would definitely be disappointed, which would be a great loss for Whale TV. Unsurprisingly, Whale TV's plot encountered a strong competitor, QQ Video. Under such circumstances, the CEO of Whale TV went to Beijing in person and after hard negotiations, finally reached a win-win agreement and jointly obtained the right to live broadcast with QQ Video. After signing the contract, Whale TV immediately launched large-scale publicity and even temporarily purchased 2 high-performance servers to provide the fluency of the live video. It turned out that Whale TV's decision was very correct. At 7 o'clock in the morning, more than 2 million viewers had poured into the live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion Live And by 8 o'clock, the number had reached 5 million. If it weren't for QQ video that diverted a lot of fans, the number of online viewers would have been much higher. Many viewers, including many fans of Lu Qin, set their alarm clocks, and then lay in the warm bed to log in, and watch with their mobile phones to cheer for Lu Qin. Is it about to start? It should be starting soon. I, Chun, am already in the arena. Lu Qin looks so handsome in his training clothes. I, Chun, will win. That goes without saying. We don't need to guess the outcome. We just need to guess which round Lu Qin defeated Li Zhiqing. I'm guessing it's within 10 rounds of the first round. Haha. In addition to the overflowing number of people in the live streaming room, Lu Qin's official Tieba had also gathered a large number of fans. In response to the Battle of 10 Billion, the official Tieba forum also launched a dedicated discussion section. While watching the live broadcast online or on TV, these fans were also discussing fervently in the forum. There was no lack of professionals among them, analyzing and commenting on Lu Qin and Li Zhiqing from all aspects. Such professional posts often attracted a lot of discussion from fans. Compared with the one-sided optimism and support in the live streaming room, the professional analysis post was undoubtedly much calmer, because Li Zhiqing's brilliant record could not be ignored, and he also had many videos, which showed the strength of this taekwondo master in all aspects. In contrast, Lu Qin's record was really much worse. He had not participated in any competition, nor had he had a formal confrontation with others. In terms of experience alone, he was far inferior to Li Zhiqing. Of course, even Li Zhiqing himself did not dare to underestimate Lu Qin. In an interview with the media the day before yesterday, he publicly stated that he had the confidence to win, but he was not sure of winning. Or some people said that this was Li Zhiqing's modesty and caution, but Lu Qin's skill had already been shown in several sensational events, so the match was still full of suspense. What was surprising was that at around 7:30 in the morning, a large number of newly registered IDs suddenly flooded into Lu Qin's official Tieba, and they were desperately flooding the screen with posts. The IP addresses of these accounts were all from overseas, and most of the names were messy, but there were also IDs with Korean characters mixed in. The content of the posts was similar. They were all supporting Li Zhiqing, mocking and even belittling Lu Qin. Netizens who frequented Tieba were all experienced, and with one look, they understood that it was definitely the Korean netizens who rushed to cause trouble at the critical moment, or more accurately, they were looking for trouble. A few days ago, the Chinese netizens blew up FLO, and there was a time when the server was paralyzed. In the end, the domestic IP address was blocked, and the news was reported on various major media. Now, it was normal for the Korean netizens to come and seek revenge. But the Chinese netizens were not afraid of this, and they were also on their own turf, so there was no need for the main Tieba moderator to call on them. They all picked up their bricks and smashed them, drowning all the posts in an instant. In fact, some of the posts from the Korean netizens were quite professional, and they listed various statistics to prove that Li Zhiqing had an advantage over Lu Qin. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. After being scolded badly, someone with the ID Parkinson KSO angrily posted on Tieba, "You Chinese people only know how to brag, but our Korean taekwondo is invincible. Li Zhiqing will make all of you shut your mouths." This ID was not newly registered, and it had been verified. Therefore, everyone quickly found out that this Park In-sung KSO was actually a rather famous Korean taekwondo player. He had participated in the London Olympics and won a silver medal. Currently, he had retired and was engaged in promoting taekwondo. But although he was famous, the netizens did not care about him, and they still smashed him. But everyone was very clear that the outcome of the online debate was actually not important. The most important thing was the outcome of the actual duel. If Lu Qin won, he could naturally hang Park In-sung KSO up and whip his corpse. But what if Lu Qin lost? Then everyone's support for Lu Qin might become a joke, and they could only watch the Korean flaunt his prowess. How could they tolerate it? Big numbers of posts on Tieba decreased in an instant, and everyone turned their attention to the live broadcast. Looking at Lu Qin appearing on the stage, countless people were cheering for him in their hearts. Don't lose. At this moment, Lu Qin obviously could not hear the common voice of thousands of fans. He was being checked by the referee to make sure that he did not have any illegal items on him. At the same time, Lu Chen could also feel the gaze from his opponents. It contained the confidence and desire for victory. Chapter 772. Lu Chen vs. Li Zhiqing. Li Zhiqing was the founder of the Wuqing School of Taekwondo in Korea, while Lu Chen was the founder of China's Kung Fu. A duel between the two was undoubtedly unprecedented, with no precedent to follow. Therefore, the rules of this $10 billion battle were jointly determined by Lu Chen and Li Zhiqing. Generally speaking, the rules of a kickboxing professional competition were the main framework, not rigidly adhering to any fixed routines and moves. In actual combat, both sides were allowed to freely perform according to the situation of the battle, flexibly displaying various three-dimensional techniques such as punches, kicks, elbows, knees, falls, and so on. The goal was to ultimately defeat the opponent. This duel used the common 3-round system, with each round lasting 5 minutes. The rules were based on the UFC's unrestricted fighting system in the United States. For example, they were not allowed to attack vital points such as the eyes, crotch, and so on. They were not allowed to bite or tear people apart, and so on. The referees on and off the stage were also invited by the UFC to ensure the fairness of this duel. Of course, the rules were very fair, with the same restrictions and constraints on both sides. However, as the founder of the Wuqing School of Taekwondo, Li Zhiqing was very familiar with the rules of this set of kickboxing, and had a wealth of experience. In contrast, Lu Chen was really too lacking, as he did not have the experience of a regular match. This was also an important reason why many people did not think that he could defeat Li Zhiqing. Even if the strength of both sides were equal, Li Zhiqing could rely on his wealth of experience, and rely on points to defeat Lu Chen. On the surface, Lu Chen's biggest advantage was perhaps that he was much younger than Li Zhiqing. There was no passionate speech from the live host, no cheers from the thousands of live audience, and no beautiful and sexy girls raising their cards to open the fight. With the crisp sound of a copper bell, the first round of the duel officially began. Li Zhiqing's legs and feet were close together, and his arms were naturally hanging by his sides. He clenched his fists slightly, looked at the ground, and gave a standard bow to Lu Chen. Lu Chen clenched his fists and returned the bow. The two of them straightened their backs at the same time, and their gazes collided once more, as if invisible sparks were flashing. All the spectators held their breaths as they stared fixedly at Lu Chen and Li Zhiqing, for fear of missing the slightest detail. Li Zhiqing's disciples even straightened their backs with solemn expressions. In the Whale TV live broadcast room of the Battle of 10 Billion, the originally dense barrage disappeared completely, and there was no one in the Lu Chen official tieba. Although they were confident that Lu Chen would win, when the time for the competition really came, Lu Chen's fans still couldn't help but feel their hearts in their throats as they silently cheered for him. Hey! The next moment, Li Zhiqing bellowed and stepped forward abruptly. Within a breath, he covered a distance of 5 meters and approached Lu Chen. He waved his arm as fast as lightning and slashed at Lu Chen's neck with his right palm like a saber. This taekwondo master didn't move, but once he moved, his momentum was like thunder. The speed of his attack was so fast that it made people dumbfounded. The saber in his palm cut through the air with a breathtaking whistling sound, and the force was extremely tyrannical. Li Zhiqing's greatest contribution to taekwondo was that on the basis of traditional taekwondo, he absorbed the essence of kickboxing, karate, sanzho, and other combat techniques, which greatly improved the actual combat ability of taekwondo. Focusing on actual combat, and using the most rapid speed, and the most concise and powerful moves to knock down the opponent was the essence of Wuqing style. Therefore, when those non-Wuqing style taekwondo players fought with Li Zhiqing according to the rules of kickboxing, they would basically collapse at the first touch and would not be able to withstand a single blow. This kind of neo-taekwondo, which focused on actual combat and sharp moves, was very much in line with the appetite of South Korean youth. Therefore, Wuqing style was unique in South Korea and developed rapidly, faintly surpassing the traditional 9 daos. However, Li Zhiqing's ambition was not to dominate South Korea, but to promote Wuqing style to the world, establish a professional competition league, and achieve the influence of AFS or UFC. Lu Chen was precisely the stepping stone that Li Zhiqing chose to realize his ambition. The first move that he used on Lu Qin was born out of traditional Taekwondo's virtual step hand blade, but it was very different from the standard virtual step hand blade. The attack and power were many times stronger. If this attack landed, it was possible to cut or even break Lu Qin's neck, and knocking him down would be a piece of cake. Exclamations of shock could be heard around the ring. However, Lu Qin's reaction was extremely fast. The moment Li Zhiqing's hand blade slashed at him, he immediately raised his arm to block. Bam! Li Zhiqing's palm slashed heavily on Lu Qin's left arm, forcing the latter's arm to press inward. When his attack missed, he instantly retracted his palm, twisted his waist, and raised his leg. His left leg kicked at Lu Qin at lightning speed. Taekwondo was famous for its unpredictable, elegant, and unrestrained leg techniques. It was called the art of kicking by the world. It had many variations and was flexible. Front kick, horizontal kick, side kick, push kick, back kick, swing kick, backspin kick, double flying kick, wind kick, and other moves were not only powerful, but also pleasing to the eye when performed. Li Zhiqing's leg techniques were a big step forward from the traditional foundation. Not only was his leg fast and powerful, but it also had a great element of surprise. The combination of his previous palm blade was seamless. This palm and kick showed the strength of this new Taekwondo master to the fullest. His side kick was fast and fierce. Lu Qin did not dare to face it head-on. He immediately took a big step back to defend and barely avoided his opponent's attack. However, Li Zhiqing did not give Lu Qin any chance to take a breather. His left leg that missed its target suddenly landed on the ground. Using his left foot as a support point, he suddenly exerted force and jumped into the air. At the same time, he twisted his body and kicked at Lu Qin's face. A beautiful whirlwind kick. His consecutive moves were too fast. Lu Qin could not dodge in time. He could only raise his arms and cross them in front of his body. Bam! Li Zhiqing's foot heavily kicked the point where Lu Qin's arms crossed, making a muffled explosion. The power of his flying kick was so strong that even Lu Qin could not resist it. He took 3 big steps back, and was completely at a disadvantage. Good. Below the ring, Li Zhiqing's disciples cheered. They were all beaming with joy as if victory was right in front of them. The first round had just begun. Not only did Li Zhiqing take the initiative, but he also suppressed Lu Qin. 3 consecutive moves made Lu Qin only have the ability to defend and not fight back. They were very clear that once Li Zhiqing took the initiative, his attacks would only become fiercer and fiercer until he completely destroyed his opponent's defense and willpower. Therefore, in the Taekwondo circle, Li Zhiqing had the nickname of Tiger of Korea. They believed that under Li Zhiqing's attacks, Lu Qin would not be able to withstand more than a few rounds. He would definitely be defeated. Correspondingly, Lu Qin's fans who were watching the live broadcast in front of their phones, computers, and televisions were all nervous and silent. Li Zhiqing's strength was unexpected. Chapter 773. In a fight between masters, strength, speed, reflexes, skills, and other physical strength were not the only things that mattered. Momentum was imposing aura. Once one struck out with one's imposing aura in a battle, it would definitely be able to sweep away all obstacles. Li Zhiqing seized the initiative to make a move at the start of the battle, and he firmly grasped this momentum, completely suppressing Lu Qin into a disadvantageous position. Even the audience who did not know Taekwondo or kickboxing could easily see that Li Zhiqing's momentum was like a rainbow at that moment, and he could turn his winning momentum into a real victory at any time. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had fought for more than 10 rounds. Li Zhiqing had the initiative, and he displayed his leg technique to the fullest. Whoosh! Whoosh! He strode forward and approached Lu Qin. Suddenly, he lifted his right leg to attack Lu Qin's left ribs. At the same time, he jumped with his left leg, turned right, and kicked Lu Qin's chest and abdomen with his left leg, forming an alternating attack with his left and right leg. Double flying kick. The disciples of the Wuqing dojo below the ring felt their blood boil. They could not help but cheer, and many of them were extremely excited. Double flying kick was a classic attack move in Taekwondo, but it was not easy to use it properly. Besides, the weakness of double flying kick was very obvious. The movements were simple, but there was a pattern to them. It was difficult to change the direction of the attack, and it was easy for the opponent to counter it. But when Li Zhiqing used it, The moves were smooth like flowing water. The speed, strength, and timing of the attack were all on point. Lu Chen had no chance to counterattack. He could only stand in a horse stance and use his arms to block. He was forced to take another step back. And he had already retreated to the edge of the ring. There were no ropes on the edge of the ring, and it was not very high. Moreover, the edge of the ring was sloping. Once someone was knocked out of the ring, it would be very easy for them to fall to the ground. Although they would not be injured, the scene would definitely be very ugly. Also, according to the preset rules, being knocked out of the ring would count according to the number of points. It could be said that under Li Zhiqing's storm-like attacks, Lu Chen was in a very disadvantageous situation. But at that moment, Lu Chen did not panic at all. After blocking Li Zhiqing's double flying kick, he took the opportunity when Li Zhiqing had just landed to suddenly punch Li Zhiqing's face. This was Lu Chen's first counterattack since the start of the first round. Li Zhiqing's attack speed could be considered to be extremely fast. He originally wanted to continuously use double flying kicks to kick Lu Chen out of the arena, but no matter how fast his kicking speed was, how could it be faster than a straight punch? The Taekwondo master decisively gave up on the attack and turned to the left side of Lu Chen with nimble steps. While avoiding Lu Chen's fist, he swung his arm again and fiercely chopped at Lu Chen's neck. Pa! Lu Chen raised his left hand in time to catch Li Zhiqing's palm blade. His waist, abdomen, chest, and arms pushed forward at the same time, hitting Li Zhiqing's body. Li Zhiqing's body suddenly swayed, and he involuntarily took half a step back. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes as he continued to retreat, widening the distance between them. Li Zhiqing was very clear about the strength of his palm blade. Not only did Lu Chen easily take it, but he also used the momentum to complete a beautiful counterattack. This move was really beyond his expectations. Through the head-on confrontation, he could feel that Lu Chen's strength was definitely not below his. This made Li Zhiqing decisively give up the idea of a quick fight and become cautious. Correspondingly, his momentum was also greatly weakened, and he no longer had the upper hand. This was precisely the experience of this Taekwondo master. He was not impatient, not greedy for achievements, and did not care about temporary gains and losses. He was very free to switch between offense and defense, and he could withdraw and release his strength at will. Moreover, Li Zhiqing had already calculated his move when he retreated. If Lu Chen wanted to take the opportunity to counterattack, then he would definitely give Lu Chen a big surprise. But after forcing Li Zhiqing to retreat, Lu Chen did not take advantage of the victory to pursue. He only took 2 steps forward, retracted his palm, and formed a confrontation with Li Zhiqing again. The sound of sighs and exhalations sounded around the ring. Of course, Li Zhiqing's disciples felt very sorry. It was obvious that Li Zhiqing was about to kick Lu Chen out of the ring, but he failed at the last moment. How could they not sigh? As for the people who supported Lu Chen, of course, it was a big relief. Of course, it also included the fans sitting in front of the TV, or watching the live broadcast with their mobile phones or computers. The Whale TV live broadcast room, which had been silent for a few minutes, instantly exploded. Damn, Li Zhiqing is really powerful. I didn't expect it. No wonder he dared to issue a challenge to Lu Chen. He has some skills. I was worried to death just now. I was really worried that Lu Chen would be beaten out of the ring. Don't worry, I haven't fought back yet. I will definitely give the Koreans a good look later. Don't be careless. Although the fans firmly supported Lu Chen, Li Zhiqing's fighting performance was also obvious to all, so people had to admit his strength. Not many people would lie with their eyes open. In less than 2 minutes, the two sides fought more than a dozen rounds. Basically, Li Zhiqing was attacking and Lu Chen was defending. The former's advantage was very obvious, and the fight was thrilling and wonderful. Especially when Li Zhiqing used the double flying kick, many people's hearts were in their throats. When they saw that Lu Chen held on and repelled the opponent, they were all relieved. Some fans, especially female fans, didn't want to watch anymore. It was really too exciting. In Lu Chen's official post bar, a new post appeared. Park and Ching KSO posted again. I believe you have all seen that Teacher Zhiqing's strength is beyond doubt. He hasn't played his full strength yet, otherwise the battle would have been over. So don't take chances and admit your failure. It's not shameful. This professional taekwondo master obviously had great confidence in Li Zhiqing, and the facts seemed to prove that some of his words were not wrong, but the arrogance in his words made the fans on the post bar extremely unhappy. In an instant, the number of replies reached as many as hundreds. In addition to refuting, most of them were scolding. Park Enchanting KSO quickly opened another post. Vulgar words can only mean your failure. His Chinese was undoubtedly very good, and his choice of words was smooth and standard, expressing the meaning of mockery very well. This made many of Lu Chen's fans angry and helpless, because apart from cursing, it was really difficult for them to refute the other side with confidence. After all, in the ring, it was strength that spoke, not words. And just after Park Enchanting KSO posted a new post, Lu Chen, who had been confronting Li Zhiqing for a moment, launched a brazen attack on his opponent. Chapter 774. Since the beginning of the Battle of 10 Billion, Lu Chen had been on the defensive. However, Lu Chen's defense was not to passively take a beating, but to measure the Taekwondo master's strength, speed, and combat ability through the confrontation with Li Zhiqing. Therefore, although the situation was ugly, he was actually able to defend with ease. It was only when he was about to be knocked out of the ring that Lu Chen decisively counterattacked. This made Li Zhiqing, who was fighting smoothly before, suddenly sober up. He wisely returned to his original position instead of gambling, and continued to attack. He adopted a more cautious posture to deal with Lu Chen. This also showed Li Zhiqing's shrewdness and experience. Under such circumstances, Lu Chen's forbearance and probing no longer had any meaning. The offensive and defensive momentum of the two sides was reversed. He quickly approached Li Zhiqing, raised his left arm horizontally in front of him, and clenched his right hand into a fist and punched his opponent's head like lightning. Simple, direct, and fast. This was the first time that Lu Chen used the kung fu skills that he had honed over a long period of time in public. Chi. The iron fist broke through the air and made a soul-stirring sound, which made Li Zhiqing's face change involuntarily. The fist's speed was too fast. He had no time to parry, so he immediately dodged sideways and retracted his left leg, ready to sweep and kick back. However, just as Li Zhiqing lifted his leg, Lu Chen's right leg suddenly swept over. Bang! The left and right legs of both sides slammed together, and the dull sound made everyone's eyelids twitch. Li Zhiqing instantly retracted his leg, and the muscles in the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. With a low shout, he waved his palm knife and fiercely chopped at Lu Chen, who was close at hand. Pa! His palm knife was blocked by Lu Chen's left arm, and Lu Chen's right fist almost at the same time found a gap and bombarded Li Zhiqing's chest. Li Zhiqing suddenly felt as if he was struck by lightning. He couldn't help but stagger back, and the horror in his heart was indescribable. Lu Chen's attack was not out of his expectations, because he had already seen through Lu Chen's patience, so he was fully prepared to let Lu Chen go all out to attack, and then look for an opportunity to counterattack while defending. But never had he imagined that Lu Chen's attacks would come so swiftly. Even more inconceivable was that Lu Chen seemed to be able to see through his every move, and was always able to perfectly seal off his counterattack before giving him a heavy blow. Li Zhiqing didn't believe that Lu Chen had the ability to see through his moves, nor did he believe that Lu Chen had completely seen through his moves. The only explanation was that Lu Chen's reaction was too fast, giving him the illusion that he had been seen through. At the same time, Lu Chen's combat ability had also exceeded his expectations. He did not suffer this punch unjustly. Hua! Seeing that Li Zhiqing was repelled by Lu Chen's punch, all the Wuqing disciples stood up. They couldn't believe their eyes. Li Zhiqing, who was the symbol of invincibility in their eyes, actually failed to successfully defend against Lu Chen's counterattack and lost unmistakably. Compared to these Li Zhiqing disciples, Lu Chen's fans who were watching the live broadcast of the match finally broke out into collective cheers and applause for the first time since the start of the match. Beautiful! This punch is too beautiful! Ha ha ha, I said that Chen will win. Now who dares to say that there is any danger? Although I don't understand it very well, it looks really powerful. Lu Chen, come on, beat Li Zhiqing. Wonderful! In the Whale TV live broadcast room, it was just like a festival. Countless fans were reveling, and countless barrage and gifts were sent out. Aircraft carriers came out one after another, as if they didn't cost anything. In the official Tieba, Lu Chen's supporters were even more proud and elated. One after another, they posted the post of Park Eun-sung KSO, asking them to admit defeat to the top and fiercely beat it. Park Eun-sung KSO quickly replied, "The match is not over yet." Lu Chen's fans were indeed happy a little too early. Li Zhiqing only took a punch and lost points. He was not knocked out of the ring or fell to the ground. It was too optimistic to say that Lu Chen won now. But in the ring, Lu Chen really played his momentum with this wave of wonderful attacks. He quickly caught up with the retreating Li Zhiqing, twisted his waist, and kicked the latter's waist and abdomen with a whip kick. A whip kick is equivalent to a horizontal kick or a spinning kick in Taekwondo. It pays particular attention to attacking the opponent by surprise. Speed is the essence. Lu Chen used a whip kick in pursuit, which was intended to oppress Li Zhiqing. Li Zhiqing's reaction was also very fast. In the case of not being stable, he accelerated back to avoid Lu Chen's whip kick. He immediately stopped and raised his leg to kick Lu Chen's abdomen. His counterattack was a little reluctant, but his pride and conceit did not allow him to retreat again and again. Especially in the case of a head-on confrontation with Lu Chen, the Taekwondo master showed his brave side in addition to his shrewdness. Lu Chen moved to avoid, but the momentum of the attack did not change. Block, dodge, parry, hit. In this arena, the duel between the two sides entered a white-hot state in the blink of an eye. The confrontation of fists and palms, the collision of legs and legs, the muffled sounds seemed to be pounding on the hearts of the audience. For minutes had passed since the first round's 5-minute time limit. The confrontation between Lu Chen and Li Zhiqing was getting more and more intense. The powerful collision between the two sides made the audience shudder with fear. Chen Fei, and Lu Shi also stood up from their seats. They were extremely nervous. As for the audience watching the live broadcast, they focused all their attention on the screen. They widened their eyes for fear of missing any scene. The time of the match jumped to 4:25. At this time, Lu Chen and Li Zhiqing had already attacked dozens of times, and the two sides were evenly matched. Li Zhiqing was able to block Lu Chen's fist and took a step back. His forehead was covered in fine sweat. His face was flushed red, but his eyes flashed with a fierce and resolute light. The next moment, he suddenly took half a step forward and instantly jumped high in the air. He twisted his body in the air and prepared to kick at Lu Chen. It was the flying backward kick. Li Zhiqing's flying backward kick was also improved. It was also one of his famous unique skills. During practice, he once had an amazing performance of breaking a wooden stake with one kick. It was definitely a powerful move. But at the moment when Li Zhiqing kicked, Lu Chen took half a step forward. He punched both of his fists at the same time, one above and one below, and hit his waist and side crotch at lightning speed. Bang! This was a good point to fight with Lu Chen. His punches were even more decisive and fierce. His hard fists were like leather, and he hit with full force. Li Zhiqing, who was in the air, could not dodge at all. His whole body spun and flew out, and he fell heavily under the ring 4 or 5 meters away. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Wuqing dojo was silent. Chapter 775. Who would have thought that Li Zhiqing, who was locked in a battle with Lu Chen, would be knocked out of the ring? The Taekwondo master fell heavily on the plastic floor. He flipped over and pressed his hands on the ground to jump up. Although his movements were very beautiful, it could not hide his embarrassment of defeat. The air in the Wuqing dojo seemed to have frozen. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. A bitter smile appeared on Li Zhiqing's face. He shook his head and returned to the ring. At this moment, there were only 10 seconds left before the end of the first round of the 10 billion battle. Those Wucheng disciples who were in a state of shock, bewilderment, and despair suddenly had a look of anticipation in their eyes. According to the rules of the competition, as long as Li Zhiqing did not admit defeat, he could still continue. At most, he would just lose a lot of points. There were still 2 rounds left. He still had a chance to turn the tables. However, to everyone's surprise, Li Zhiqing did not drag the time until the end of the first round. Instead, he solemnly bowed to Lu Chen and said, "The victory of this competition belongs to you, sir." He actually admitted defeat. There was an uproar in the audience. Lu Chen returned a fist salute and said, "He admitted defeat." Lu Chen did not expect Li Zhiqing to admit defeat so cleanly. He could not help but admire him. As the saying goes, there is no first place in literature, and no second place in martial arts. As the representative of Korean Taekwondo and the founder of the Wuqing style, Li Zhiqing, who possessed great strength and ambition, placed great importance on this match. A martial artist like him must have a strong will, and would not admit defeat easily, because it concerned his dignity. It was precisely because of this that his calm attitude towards defeat was very praiseworthy. In the previous battles, this Taekwondo master's fighting spirit was impeccable. Many martial artists were very good at using the rules. When the situation was unfavorable, they liked to dodge, hold, delay, or even use foul tactics to prolong the match. This could not be said to be wrong. As long as the rules allowed it, there was no problem. Glory belonged to the final winner. Even if the situation before was ugly, the winner would never be blamed. However, Li Zhiqing did not use such a move. It was impossible that he did not know it. It was just pride. A loss was a loss. There was no excuse. Lu Chen admired Li Zhiqing for admitting defeat, because he would have made the same choice if he were in Li Zhiqing's shoes. Sparring was not a battle of life and death. Admitting that one was inferior to one's opponent was a form of courage. Of course, for Lu Chen's fans, they won't think so much. They only know one irrefutable fact, that is Lu Chen won. The victory belonged to Lu Chen. Lu Chen defeated Li Zhiqing before the end of the first round, which could be said to be a battle of tens of billions that attracted worldwide attention. All the fans who were paying attention to this match were all fired up, especially in the Whale TV live broadcast room. It was simply boiling. The barrage of messages and rewards was so great that the server was about to crash. My Chen is mighty. Victory belongs to us. Ha ha ha, I told you that Lu Chen would win. I was right. What happened just now was really amazing. Lu Chen's counterattack was simply a stroke of genius. No, it was a punch of God. I've decided. I want to learn China Kung Fu too. Strong. According to the official post-event statistics of Whale TV, in the 1 minute after Li Zhiqing bowed his head to Lu Chen and admitted defeat, the number of online viewers of Battle of 10 Billion exceeded 10 million, and a total of 13 million messages were brushed, as well as rewards and gifts worth a total of 8 million plus. This record was not broken for the next 10 years, until Lu Chen stood on the podium of the Oscars. At the same time, in Lu Chen's official tieba, in addition to the fans' crazy celebration, the beating of Park and-ching KSO became the most important theme. Everyone ridiculed and laughed to their heart's content in several of his posts. Although it was a bit unkind, wasn't it a relief? Park and-ching KSO did not respond anymore, but went offline directly, and never came online again. In addition, the comprehensive ratings of the live broadcast of the competition by Zhejiang Satellite TV and Beijing Television exceeded 15%, and the number of views of QQ Video exceeded 100 million, breaking their respective records. The impact of this was very far-reaching. Many years later, when people talk about China Kung Fu or Taekwondo, this battle of 10 billion will always be indispensable. It also made China Kung Fu really begin to take root in people's hearts. While the domestic audience and fans were celebrating the victory, in the Wuqing Martial Arts headquarters, the famous referee from the United States officially announced the result of the competition. Lu Chen defeated Li Zhiqing. No one expressed any objection to this. Even Li Zhiqing's disciples were silent. Li Zhiqing is very able to pick up and put it down. His careful planning has become a wedding dress for others. He did not show any flustered or resentful remorse, but politely invited Lu Chen to communicate in private. Lu Chen readily agreed. In an elegant room in the Wuqing Martial Arts headquarters, Li Zhiqing personally brewed a pot of green tea for Lu Chen and others. After drinking 2 cups of tea, the atmosphere became harmonious. The Taekwondo master suddenly said, "Mr. Lu Chen, the China Kung Fu you created is very different from traditional China martial arts, but I can see the inheritance of boxing and leg techniques from it, which is more powerful than I thought. I admire it very much. I wonder if you have the idea of promoting this powerful skill to the world?" Lu Chen was stunned. He didn't expect Li Zhiqing to ask such a question. Lu Chen's Kung Fu first came from the memories in the dream world, which belonged to Mo Ran. However, it was not enough for him to inherit it completely, but on this basis he had his own creations and ideas. Inheritance and development, coupled with his changed talent, made Lu Chen truly powerful. Li Zhiqing's eyes were very keen. As for promoting China Kung Fu, he really had such an idea. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen replied frankly, Mr. Li Zhiqing, I do have such an idea, but now is not the time, and I don't have the time to realize my intention for the time being. He was first and foremost an artist, and his acting and singing career was his foundation. Promotion Kung Fu also needed to be carried out on the basis of developing his career, so he couldn't neglect the essentials. Li Zhiqing smiled slightly and said, If the time is ripe in the future, I wonder if Mr. Lu Chen would be willing to work together with our Wuqing Martial Arts headquarters to establish a World Martial Arts Professional League competition based on Wuqing Taekwondo and China Kung Fu? World Martial Arts Professional League. Lu Chen had to admit that Li Zhiqing's proposal was very tempting and constructive. Chapter 776. I think we can agree to cooperate with Li Zhiqing. On the way back to the hotel after leaving the Wuqing Dojo headquarters, Lu Shi, who was in the same car, said he is very shrewd. Shrewd was the most suitable adjective for businessmen. It felt very inappropriate to use it on a Taekwondo master, but it turned out that Li Zhiqing's shrewdness was beyond everyone's imagination. In the case of being defeated by Lu Chen, he was not frustrated, angry, regretful, or resentful. Instead, he proposed a cooperation proposal to Lu Chen that was beneficial to both sides. It was not wrong to say that he was a little shrewd. In this way, Li Zhiqing turned the disadvantage into an advantage. As long as the two sides could reach an agreement, then this battle of 10 billion would become a good story, and the damage to his reputation would naturally be minimized. In addition, his ambitious ambitions would not suffer a major setback because of this. Instead, he would get a strong partner in his own camp, which would be more conducive to the expansion of his career. Of course, if Li Zhiqing wanted to achieve his goal, the most important thing was to get the approval and support of Lu Chen. If Lu Chen did not agree, then his efforts would be meaningless. Because Lu Chen was the winner. He thought about it, nodded and said, I also agree. You have to talk to him about the specific cooperation plan. Lu Chen thought about it very clearly. Li Zhiqing's proposal to establish the World Martial Arts Competition was a very good idea. Once it was successful, the impact would be very far-reaching and positive. This idea could be combined with his Wuxia Great IP plan to produce a huge impetus. Although the addition of Wuqing Taekwondo would make things a lot more complicated. If Lu Chen did it alone, it would take a lot of time and energy. The result was completely not worth the loss. Li Zhiqing had a plan, strength, and ability. He was undoubtedly the most suitable partner. For a long time, in addition to his solo acting career, Lu Chen had used the method of cooperation to expand his career, such as the crowdfunding website, such as Happy Entertainment, Star Factory Media, etc., all of which were successful. Lu Chen was already handy to achieve the sharing of common interests through cooperation. Are you trying to tire me to death? Lu Shi glared at him angrily. You cause big trouble every now and then leave it alone. Even if I have 3 heads and 6 arms, I can't deal with it. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, I don't want to either. Maybe we can recruit a few professional managers. His career was getting bigger and bigger. Chenfei Media's next step would be to expand, sign more artists, and shoot more movies and TV series. There would only be more and more things to do. However, Lu Chen did not want his sister to work day and night for this. Money could not be earned, and family was more important. While talking, the Mercedes-Benz the 3 of them took arrived at the main entrance of the Shilla Hotel. As a result, as soon as Lu Chen got out of the car, a large group of reporters suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They surrounded Lu Chen as fast as they could, desperately pressing the shutter of the cameras in their hands, and extending the microphones in their hands to Lu Chen. Mr. Lu Chen. Mr. Lu Chen, how do you view this victory? Li Zhiqing. Some of them spoke Chinese, some of them spoke English, but most of them spoke Korean. It was a messy mix of languages. Lu Chen did not expect that there would be so many paparazzi in South Korea. They were actually waiting for him at the entrance of the hotel. He could not help but be stunned. In fact, He underestimated the influence of Li Zhiqing in South Korea. When this Battle of 10 Billion was broadcast live on MBC TV, it had already caused a sensation in South Korea. As a result, Lu Qin defeated Li Zhiqing in the first round, which was beyond the expectations of countless people. Many reporters arrived outside the headquarters early, but more reporters ran to the Shilla Hotel, where Lu Qin stayed to follow up the interview, because the chance of waiting for Lu Qin here was much higher. Fortunately, the security personnel appeared in time and quickly separated the reporters. They escorted Lu Qin, Chen Feier, and Lu Shi back to the hotel safely. Chen Feier said worriedly, "Do you think there will be trouble? Why don't you return home earlier?" Li Zhiqing was a hero in many South Koreans' hearts. Now that he had been defeated by Lu Qin, it was hard to say that there would not be some extreme fans who would do something irrational. Lu Shi supported him. "Yes, you two return home first. I'll stay here and talk to Li Zhiqing." Lu Qin laughed. "It's not that scary. Also, I've agreed to SYG's invitation. I'll go back in 2 days." SYG was a famous management company in South Korea. It was through their cooperation that Lu Qin successfully expanded his career to South Korea. The cooperation between the two parties had been very pleasant. This time, when Lu Qin came to Seoul to participate in the program recording, he also took the time to visit SYG's headquarters. Then SYG made an invitation to him, hoping that Lu Qin could guide SYG's newly formed girl group, Girl. Lu Qin naturally had to fulfill his promise since he had agreed to it. At 12:15 p.m. on January 6, Li Zhiqing posted on his personal FLO. He admitted his defeat and apologized to all his fans who had supported him. This Taekwondo master especially praised Lu Qin's strength. At the same time, he hoped to cooperate with Lu Qin and promote Wuqing-style Taekwondo and Chinese Kung Fu to the world. This was because the two had many similarities and complemented each other in many areas. 5 minutes later, Lu Qin responded to Li Zhiqing on FLO. He said that winning this victory was largely due to luck. He had many things to learn from Li Zhiqing, so winning or losing was not important. He also looked forward to working with Li Zhiqing. These two blog posts could be considered a perfect ending to the Battle of 10 Billion. Lu Qin's humility and sincerity won him countless good reviews, and a large number of Korean fans. On the other hand, many Korean Taekwondo, karate, and kickboxing experts jumped out and proposed to challenge Lu Qin. However, they were destined to not receive any response from Lu Qin. Immediately afterward, Lu Qin posted a new blog post on Waves. First of all, he thanked his fans for their support, especially the fans of Whale TV, who gave him more than 20 million in tips and gifts. However, he would not put this money into his own pocket. After tax, he would donate all of it, along with the income from the live broadcast, to the Chun Fei Charity Foundation to help more people in need. Naturally, the fans were full of praise. The anti-fans who usually appeared in the comments from time to time had completely disappeared. This was because they could not find any fault with him at all. Trying to do so would be asking for humiliation. That night, Central TV Department 1 broadcasted the news of Lu Qin's victory over Li Zhiqing in Seoul. The edited video of the battle was 15 seconds long, and it gave Lu Qin a positive evaluation. Chapter 777. Seoul's Gangnam District, Chongtan-dong. XXX-dong, in Korea was equivalent to XXX Street in China. Chongtan-dong was located in Korea's most prosperous and affluent Gangnam District. The latter was also seen as the core of Korea's entertainment industry. Famous entertainment agencies such as S.M., GTRF, REOP, and so on gathered here. Every year, large numbers of professionally trained artists would emerge from Gangnam District's Chongtan-dong, Nongyeon-dong, Moojong-dong, and other places, providing a steady stream of new blood for Korea's entertainment industry. SYG's headquarters was in Chongtan-dong. It was a 12-story building. SYG was not the top entertainment agency in Korea. Its power and scale could not be compared to SMG. However, it had a long history. This headquarters, built in the early 90s, was the best proof. When Lu Qin arrived at SYG's headquarters, SYG's president, Lee Junhao, was already waiting at the door with many senior executives. Although Lu Qin had already visited here a few days ago, SYG's reception was even higher today. There were even a few major shareholders of SYG among the welcoming crowd. Lu Chen was completely surrounded by them as he stepped into the building. "It was unfortunate last time," Li Zhenhao said sincerely. "I was on a business trip in Thailand and could not make it back in time. So Mr. Lu Chen, please give me a chance to make it up to me. Let's have dinner together." The last time Lu Chen was here, the president of SYG was not in Korea. It was a missed opportunity. The first thing Li Zhenhao did when he returned was to extend another warm invitation to Lu Chen. Lu Chen's second visit to YG was to maintain the friendship between him and his business partners. But this time, he only brought his assistant with him. Lu Xi and Chen Fei went shopping in Myeongdong. The three of them would return to China tomorrow. The plane tickets had already been booked, so today was their last day in Korea. Lu Chen smiled. "President Li is too polite. Then, I'll accept your invitation." Li Zhenhao immediately revealed a bright smile. The president of SYG was in her 30s. She had studied in China for many years, so she was proficient in Mandarin and Chinese culture. Not long after she returned to China, she took over her father's position and took charge of this entertainment management company. It was precisely because of this connection that Li Zhenhao attached great importance to the China market. He had set up an office in Beijing a long time ago and actively recommended his contracted artists to expand into the domestic market. However, SYG's capabilities were limited. The few artists that they had promoted were not doing very well in China. It was only when they started working with Lu Chen that the situation changed drastically. Relying on the good cooperation with Lu Chen, many of SYG's artists participated in the filming of Full House of Romance and Autumn in My Blood. As a result, they quickly became popular in China and Korea, and brought SYG a huge source of income. Naturally, Li Zhenhao attached great importance to Lu Chen. As they spoke, the group took the elevator to the 5th floor of SYG headquarters. The 3rd and 4th floors were the practice rooms for the trainees, while the 5th and 6th floors were the practice rooms and studios for the debuting artists. The trainee system of Korean entertainment management companies had been around for a long time. It was very strict, and the elimination rate of trainees was very high. Even though it was only 1 floor away, one had to put in a lot of sweat and tears to get from the 4th to the 5th floor. One also needed enough luck and talent. The Korean entertainment industry had long been a complete assembly line. There were many artists debuting every year, so the competition was extremely cruel. If they did not become popular within a year or two after debuting, they would basically be eliminated. Of course, this cruelty was not limited to artists. It was the same for entertainment management companies. Today, Li Zhenhao had warmly invited Lu Chen to visit SYG again. Of course, the main purpose was not to treat Lu Chen to a meal, but to ask him to guide SYG's recently debuted girl group, Girl. There were a total of 7 members in Girl. They were between 17 and 19 years old, and were no less than 170 meters tall. All of them had trained at SYG for more than 3 years. SYG had invested a lot of resources in Girl to groom them. At the same time, they had high hopes for Girl to become one of the top girl groups in Korea and become the company's cash cow. However, dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. The competition in the girl groups in Korea was fierce to begin with. Girl had just debuted when S.M.G released Kuro, and REOP released Dawn Girls, suppressing Girl to the point where they could not even raise their heads. The market response was very cold. Of course, SYG would not be willing to fail. That was why they had tried so hard to invite Lu Chen, hoping to make use of Lu Chen's talent in music composition to make Girl shine. There were many girl groups in Korea, and there was a serious situation of homogeneity. The girl group members were all young and beautiful, and they could sing and dance. Therefore, the key was whether they had popular works or not. Whether it was Kuro or Dawn Girls, they had master-level songwriters who wrote songs for them. Their debut songs were a huge success. In comparison, Girl was much worse in this aspect. Hello Sensei Lu Chen. In Girl's exclusive practice room, 7 young and beautiful girls were wearing tight practice skirts, revealing their slender and fair thighs. They stood in a row and bowed to greet Lu Chen. What's more, he was using perfect Chinese. Even though Lu Chen was experienced and knowledgeable, he could not help but feel a little dizzy. He quickly nodded and said hello. Girl's manager who accompanied Lu Chen quickly introduced, Sensei Lu Chen, this is Song Yinghui. The girl whose name was called stepped forward and bowed again. Hello Sensei Lu Chen. Song Yinghui was the leader of girl, and had the best figure in the group. She was quite bold. While greeting Lu Chen, she also cast a fiery gaze at him. In today's South Korea, Lu Chen was undoubtedly the most popular Chinese star. The number of his fans was even more than that of many of South Korea's A-list artists. The trilogy of Autumn in My Heart, Full House of Romance, and You from the Star had given Lu Chen an extraordinary position in the South Korean entertainment industry. For a new artist like Song Yinghui who had just debuted, it had a different kind of attraction. Most importantly, Lu Chen also held the key to making people famous. Lu Chen did not care too much because he had seen many female fans looking at him with similar gazes. Under the introduction of his manager, he got to know all the members of girl one by one. It had to be said that being surrounded by so many beautiful girls and being treated as fans to their idols felt very pleasant. However, Lu Chen was not an ordinary person after all. He had enough willpower. After the introduction, he said straightforwardly, "Please perform a work." Unsurprisingly, Lu Chen's request was quickly carried out. Chapter 778. The song that girl performed for Lu Chen was their debut single, Passion. SYG had high hopes for girl. Of course, they would not be careless with their debut work. The lyrics and arrangement of Passion were all created by famous artists. Just the choreography alone took them nearly a month to practice. Even the filming of the music video was done with the same emphasis on perfection. Coupled with the publicity, SYG could be said to have spent a lot of money, hoping that girl would become an instant hit. However, it was very unfortunate that girl encountered Kuro and Dawn girls as soon as they debuted. The result was a terrible defeat. Passion only stayed on the K-pop charts for 2 weeks before there was no news, and it was ranked last. This put SYG and girl in an awkward position, and their subsequent promotions were greatly affected. Inviting Lu Chen could be said to be SYG's move to save girl. As the accompaniment sounded, the 7 beautiful girls danced a hot dance to the melody. Their performance was very serious, and the rhythm of their dance movements was very strong. Moreover, their cooperation with each other was very tacit, which was pleasing to the eye. In terms of dancing, the average level of Korean artists could be said to be the best in Asia, especially boy or girl groups. They often went through a long period of arduous training, and with excellent choreography, they contributed a lot to the popularity of the Korean wave. Girls' dance was also professional, and they put in 120% of their effort, which made Lu Chen secretly admire them. The rarest thing was that girl danced and sang at the same time. They were singing for real instead of lip-syncing. The 7 girls looked neat, youthful, beautiful, and had their own characteristics. They were hardworking and capable, and with the support of the company they signed with, it was reasonable to say that it would be very easy for them to become famous. However, they were really unlucky. Not only did they encounter a strong opponent, but their debut song was also lackluster. Passion had a strong rhythm and melody, and the climax was remarkable. However, there was nothing special about it, or anything that could make people addicted to it. The style was similar to many Korean pop songs. Lu Chen had a certain understanding of K-pop, so he quickly realized the problem. He fell into deep thought. After girls' performance ended, they looked at the silent Lu Chen. They couldn't help but look at each other, a little at a loss of what to do. With Lu Chen's current popularity and influence in Korea, if he was willing to recommend girl on FLO, girl would definitely gain a wave of fans, and even get out of her current awkward situation. However, they also knew very well that even the president of SYG, Lee Junhao, might not have the face to make Lu Chen put in a good word for him. Although both parties had a long and friendly cooperation, in reality, SYG relied more on Lu Chen. Now Lu Chen's evaluation of their performance was very important. The girls nervously looked at Lu Chen, who was sitting on the chair. Their eyes were filled with anxiety and expectation. The senior members of SYG in the practice room, including Lee Junhao, did not speak. They were afraid that they would disturb Lu Chen's thoughts. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. After a while, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Not bad. You all danced well and sang well. Hearing Lu Chen's positive evaluation, the girls of Girl could not help but feel relieved and smiled sweetly. Li Zhenhao smiled bitterly and said, "But this song won't do. She was beautiful, danced well, and sang well. Only the song would not do." Li Zhenhao helped Lu Chen say what he had not said. Lu Chen smiled and said, "The song lacks some characteristics. I don't have any good guidance in terms of dancing and singing, so I'll write a song for Girl." Lu Chen wanted to write a song for Girl? Li Zhenhao was overjoyed. She had invited Lu Chen to teach Girl because she wanted to use Lu Chen's fame to promote Girl. She did not expect Lu Chen to be willing to personally write for Girl. She knew that Lu Chen was a very talented singer and composer. He had extraordinary talent in music. However, in the past year, Lu Chen had focused on his development in the film industry and had not released a new album for some time. In addition, Li Zhenhao also knew that Lu Chen's price for writing songs was very high. The price of a song could easily crush all the songs in Asia. It was the top tier in Europe and America. It was not that SYG could not afford it, but whether Lu Chen was willing to do it, whether his song would be suitable for Girl, and whether it would be suitable for the Korean market were all problems. Now that Lu Chen had taken the initiative to suggest it, the situation was completely different. If he did not have enough confidence or good inspiration, she believed that Lu Chen would not have said it. That's really great. The girls of Girl were very smart. When they saw Li Zhenhao smiling, they looked at each other and then bowed to Lu Chen in unison. "Thank you, Teacher Lu Chen." Some of them spoke Mandarin, while others spoke Korean. Their voices were crisp and cute. Lu Chen chuckled and gestured to his assistant to bring his briefcase over. Then he took out his computer from it. For this trip to Korea, he had brought along a supercomputer that he had bought not long ago. It was installed with a few sets of commonly used composing software, so that it would be convenient for him to use when he was out and about. Since he had agreed, Lu Chen simply started composing on the spot. Because Girl was currently focusing on the Korean market, he did not need to think about the lyrics and directly typed out the music score. His fingers flew across the keyboard, and in just a few minutes, he had finished writing a song. The surrounding senior management of SYG were all dumbfounded. They felt that Lu Chen's songwriting was like child's play. All he had to do was type a few times on the keyboard, and he could even sell a song for 10 to 20 million won. For such custom-made works, the composer often had to spend a week or two or even more to prepare. They had to rack their brains to find inspiration, and then fill in the inspiration. Finally, the final product had to be revised repeatedly. They were all suspicious that Lu Chen was just brushing them off. Did he think that it would be fine if he just casually passed it to them? Lu Chen did not care what they were thinking. He asked Li Zhenhao if he could borrow the help of a few professionals to complete the first version of the song. It was not the first time he had done such a thing, and he did not care if it was shocking. Li Zhenhao could not believe it either, but she immediately complied with Lu Chen's request. Therefore, Lu Chen borrowed SYG's staff and equipment, and spent about 2 hours to turn this song that was tailor-made for Girl into a finished product. Of course, due to the limited time, the content and details of the arrangement could not be very rich. However, the basic melody, rhythm, timbre, and so on were all there. If he added in the lyrics, it would be a complete work. After it was completed, Lu Chen played the final product in the testing room. Many of the senior management of SYG, including Li Zhenhao, as well as the 7 girls from Girl, listened to this work that only had background music. After listening to it, everyone's expressions were colorful. Chapter 779. In the eyes of many of SYG's senior management, what they had seen today was an absolute miracle. God said, "Let there be light," and so there was light. Lu Chen said he would write a song for Girl, and so he did. Although it was a work without lyrics, the quality was so high that it was hard to believe that it was composed in a few minutes. The melody of the song was very light, and the unique rhythm had a strong toxicity. Just hearing it once would make one hum a few lines. It had a magical power that made people listen to it again and again. These SYG executives were not idle people. Their appreciation of pop music was not bad, and some were even professionals. That was why they were so shocked. With this song, as long as it was matched with lyrics and choreography, It would not be a dream for girl to make a comeback. In the Korean pop music scene, there were many examples of people becoming famous overnight because of one song. It was not a myth for a few classic songs to support a popular girl group. Especially in the current situation where Korean pop music was highly homogenized and the audience was tired of it, they knew all too well the power of a good song. The girls of Girl looked at Luchin with stars in their eyes, each of them full of joy and admiration. The girls' love for this work came from the bottom of their hearts. The melody and rhythm hit their hearts, and they could not wait to try it out. Ever since their debut, they had been under a lot of pressure. The response to their debut single was mediocre. Faced with strong competitors, although they worked hard, they could not achieve success. At this moment, to them, Luchin was like an angel who had descended to the mortal world to save them from their suffering. The girls' burning gazes made Luchin feel a little overwhelmed. He coughed twice and said, "That's it for now. Get someone else to write the lyrics, and the arrangement needs to be perfected." Lee Junhao hurriedly said, "Thank you so much. You've worked hard. I will get someone to draft the copyright transfer contract. Please rest assured." The president of SYG only had one thought in her mind, and that was to sign the contract as soon as possible. She would never forgive herself if she missed this song. Most importantly, with one song, there would naturally be a second song. With the support of a talented musical genius like Luchin, would Girl be afraid of not being able to beat Kuro and Dawn Maiden? Therefore, she didn't care about the cost at all. No matter how much Luchin asked, she would agree unconditionally. Luchin smiled and said, "You can discuss the contract with Lushi." Lee Junhao thought of something and said, "Mr. Luchin, what's the name of this song?" Although Luchin had asked SYG to add their own lyrics, Lee Junhao still hoped that Luchin could give the work a name. This was very important. Luchin smiled and said, "Just call her G." G. Lee Junhao's eyes lit up and he nodded thoughtfully. "Very good title." Luchin smiled but said nothing. G meant surprise in Korean. In the dream world, this song G was originally one of the representative works of a very famous Korean girl group. It had been popular for a time and won many awards. It had extraordinary magic. The sky had darkened by the time the audition ended. At night, Lee Junhao invited Luchin to a banquet at the famous Hanjiang Hotel. Girl and many of the higher-ups of SYG accompanied them, and were very attentive. Luchin rarely drank, but he couldn't resist the enthusiasm of the girls and Girl. He drank a bottle of traditional Korean wine, bamboo charcoal, and was a little tipsy in the end. Lee Junhao also drank a few glasses of wine. She smiled and said, "Mr. Luchin, I think you're a little drunk. Letting Hui send you upstairs to rest. I've already booked a room here." As she spoke, she gave Song In-hui, who was sitting beside Luchin, a look. Song In-hui was the leader of Girl. Her overall quality was the best among the 7 girls. Her appearance wasn't top-notch, but her figure was outstanding, especially her pair of long legs. Seeing Lee Junhao's hint, Song In-hui immediately understood, and held onto Luchin's arm. Her bouncy breasts pressed tightly against his arm and said sweetly, "Teacher Luchin, let me send you upstairs." To be honest, such a youthful and beautiful girl with a soft voice and exotic charm was a great temptation for Luchin. Moreover, Lee Junhao's hint was quite obvious. However, Luchin was not drunk. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your warm hospitality, President Lee, but I won't be staying here tonight. My girlfriend is still waiting for me in the hotel." His tone was gentle, but his will was very firm. Lee Junhao was stunned, then smiled and said, "All right then, I'll get someone to send you back." Politely declining Lee Junhao's good intentions, and ignoring Song In-hui's resentment, Luchin and his assistant took the car sent by SYG back to Hotel Shilla. This bunch of Koreans. In the car, Zhang Xiaofeng, the assistant who had followed Luchin to Korea, said, "So many tricks." The Korean drinking culture was also very popular. The senior management of SYG were very good at persuading people to drink. If not for Zhang Xiaofeng's help that night, Luchin would probably be lying on the floor. But what Zhang Xiaofeng said was not just that. Luchin laughed involuntarily. He had long heard of the unspoken rules in the Korean entertainment industry, but he did not expect it to happen to him. It was just that Li Junhao's honey trap was really playing with the wrong target. Unlike those artists who became unscrupulous after becoming famous, Lu Chen had always kept his bottom line in the huge entertainment industry. The more famous he was, the more careful he was with his words and actions. It was actually very easy for a person to fall into depravity. It was very difficult to stay clean in the entertainment industry that was filled with countless temptations, but he had his own persistence. Therefore, even if Chen Fei was not here in Korea, Lu Chen would not be tempted by Song Yinghui. Back in the room, Chen Fei was sitting in the living room chatting with Lu Shi. There were bags of various sizes on the carpet in the living room. It looked like they had gained a lot today. Seeing the drunken Lu Chen return, Chen Fei hurriedly got up to support him. Lu Shi said angrily, "Why did you drink so much? It stinks." Lu Chen smiled bitterly. "I didn't want to drink too much. The people from SYG were really too passionate. I really couldn't handle it. Luckily, Brother Zhang was here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come back tonight." He had a lingering fear just thinking about it. If he had been drunk and completely sinned, it would be hard to say what would have happened next. Of course, Li Junhao did not have any ill intentions towards him, but her good intentions were even more unbearable. Chen Fei laughed. "Is it because you have a beautiful girl with you that you can't bear to come back?" Lu Chen laughed. "Hurry up and take a bath. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain." On the 8th of January, Lu Chen ended his trip to Korea and returned to Beijing with Chen Fei, Lu Shi, and the rest. Chapter 780. When Lu Chen returned to Beijing, the first snow of the new year had just fallen in the capital. The snow was so heavy that the flight from Seoul to Beijing was delayed for more than 5 hours. Therefore, when they arrived at Beijing International Airport, it was already past 11 o'clock in the evening. What surprised Lu Chen was that there were still a large number of fans in the terminal to pick him up when the flight was delayed for such a long time. Seeing Lu Chen and others coming out of the passenger passage, these fans immediately let out earth-shattering cheers. They held up various posters, support signs, flowers, gifts, and so on. The scene was quite amazing. For the current Lu Chen, it was normal to meet fans or reporters who came to pick him up at the airport. Because his popularity was so high, there was no need to arrange professional fans at all. There were still a lot of real fans to support him. It was said that the airline company specialized in selling the flight information of celebrity artists to the fan groups, so the fans could know the movements of their idols at any time and surround the airport. In this regard, Lu Chen had long been used to it. But today, it snowed for a day, the plane was delayed for such a long time, and so many fans waited for his return. It really made him very touched and even embarrassed. "Thank you." Lu Chen took the flowers and gifts from the hands of 2 female fans, and smiled to express his gratitude. Several female fans who squeezed to the front were so excited that their faces were red. The people behind them tightly surrounded them, causing chaos at the scene. Fortunately, the airport arranged enough personnel to maintain order. According to the usual practice, Lu Chen should speed up and leave. The car to pick him up was already waiting outside. But today's situation was really special. He really couldn't leave the fans who had waited for him for such a long time, so he took the initiative to take the crowd to the side and signed autographs and took photos for these fans one by one. Of course, the fans were overjoyed and spontaneously lined up with good manners. Their hard waiting was finally not in vain. Not only could they get Lu Chen's autograph, but they also got Chen Fei's. It was a great deal. Lu Chen signed a fan's autograph and asked, "Now that the subway has stopped, how are you going to go back?" The fan replied, "My friend and I are going to take a taxi back." Take a taxi? Lu Chen could not help but frown. It was already very late, and the most convenient and fast subway was already out of service. There were definitely taxis at the airport, but it was probably very difficult to get one due to the snow, and there were so many fans. He immediately said to Lu Shi, "Sister, can you call and ask if you can get a few cars to send them back?" Lu Shi nodded and immediately called the bus. She helped Lu Chen manage the studio and Chenfei Media, and built up a considerable network in the capital. This was naturally not a problem for her. It only took a few minutes for Lu Shi to contact a car. She relied on her relationship with Beijing Television. When the fans heard that Lu Chen had specially arranged a bus for them to go back, There was no need to mention how considerate and moved they were. They posted photos in their respective blogs and circles of friends, and all of them were very happy. Do you have an idol that warms your heart? When other fans saw this, they all expressed their envy and jealousy. Some even said that they would rush to the airport immediately. After this torment, when Lu Chun and Chen Fei returned home, it was already past 1 o'clock in the morning. Both of them were exhausted to death. After a simple wash, they went to bed and slept until dawn. The next day, Lu Chun and Chen Fei rushed to the headquarters of Central TV together. The two of them were here to participate in the first official rehearsal of the 2018 Spring Festival Gala. Central TV's rehearsal was different from ordinary galas. Ordinary galas had loose requirements for the participating stars. Usually, the stars did not need to participate in the rehearsal, or only needed to participate once. However, Central TV was different. No matter how big the stars were, they had to participate in the official rehearsal to be selected for the Spring Festival Gala. Unless there was a special reason, they could not ask for leave. If they could not accept this rule, then they could forget about this stage that was watched by millions of people. In the past, the Spring Festival Gala was actually not so strict, especially when it came to Hong Kong and Taiwanese stars. However, in recent years, this rule had been implemented very well, and there had been stars who were kicked out because of this. For this year's Spring Festival Gala, Lu Chen and Chen Fei both had performances, so the first rehearsal was definitely not to be missed. It was not that the two of them valued the Spring Festival Gala very much, but there was no need to break the rules. Therefore, they still took it very seriously and rushed over more than an hour in advance. The Spring Festival Gala's rehearsal was held in Central TV's Broadcasting Studio 1. When the two of them entered, they went through multiple security checks. In order to prevent the surging social media and internet celebrities from entering the Spring Festival Gala's rehearsal site to secretly take pictures and leak the contents of the Spring Festival Gala, Central TV's confidentiality of the first rehearsal could be said to be airtight. All bags and mobile phones of the audience were not allowed inside, and there were also strict rules for reporters and entertainers. When the two of them appeared backstage in the broadcasting studio, it immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Recently, in terms of the limelight, no one in the domestic entertainment industry could compare to Lu Chen, especially since he had just defeated Taekwondo master Lee Zhiqing in South Korea. The media was abuzz and he was almost put on a pedestal. It really makes people not convinced. Lu Chen has the height, the appearance, the talent, the ability to write and fight, and the skill is extraordinary. He is simply the perfect big star. Whether it was out of sincerity or insincerity, regardless of whether they were friends or not, the celebrities who were already waiting backstage all greeted Lu Chen and Chen Fei with a smile or warmly. Among them, there were also friends of the two, such as Lu Gangxing, Tan Hong, etc. In addition to these two evergreen trees in the industry, there were also many big stars and emerging artists. It could be said that the stars were shining. Lu Gangxing, like Chen Fei, was participating in the Spring Festival Gala for the third time this year. He flew to Beijing a few days ago. Now that they saw Lu Chen, everyone was naturally happy to be reunited after a long time. Tan Hong had originally retired from the music industry, but because of the invitation of the great director, Chen Guoji, he also came. However, he would not be appearing alone, but participating in a singing program with a group of stars. And the song for the chorus was written by Lu Chen. Tan Hong opened his arms and gave him a strong hug. He praised, "You have won glory for the country. Come to my house for dinner tonight. Your sister-in-law said that she wants to welcome a hero." Lu Chen laughed and said, "How can I be considered a hero? Thank you so much, sister-in-law." As the two of them were chatting and laughing, Chen Guoji appeared backstage. The first official rehearsal for the Spring Festival Gala was about to begin. Chapter 781. According to previous year's practices, a Spring Festival Gala usually had 4.5 hours of content, and rehearsals lasted even longer. No matter how big the names were, even after they finished rehearsing, they could not leave immediately. This was because they still had to analyze and judge the effects of the program, so they often had to stay for more than half a day. Lunch was provided by Central TV. Whether it was celebrities, guest artists, extras, or staff, they all ate boxed lunches, and the quality of the lunches was the same. Of course, celebrities who were not used to eating boxed lunches could prepare their own meals, but basically no one would do that. Lu Chen and Chen Feier were no exception. They received their own boxed lunches during the lunch break. Even though Central TV's boxed lunches were the standard price of 58 yuan, there were countless people in the industry who wanted to eat this boxed lunches. Every year, celebrities, big or small, racked their brains to get in, but only a few succeeded. This was the first time Lu Chen had eaten a boxed lunchbox from Central TV. All the meat is for you. Chen Feier picked out the beef from the lunchbox and put it into Lu Chen's lunchbox. I weighed it this morning, and it's half a caddy heavier. I want to lose 1 caddy. Lu Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. You still need to lose? Not eating meat is not good for your health. Chen Feier picked up the last piece of meat with his chopsticks and stuffed it into his mouth. I know what I'm doing. Stop nagging. Lu Chen's mouth was stuffed with meat. He shook his head speechlessly. Then he picked up his own radish strips and broccoli for Chen Feier. The two of them hid in a corner and were lovey-dovey. But the others who saw them felt suffocated, especially those single dogs, who were fed a big mouthful of dog food. Moreover, he kept on feeding them until someone stood up fearlessly. Cough, cough. A loud cough forced Lu Chen to stop his inhumane public display of affection. He turned his head and was almost blinded. What a big bald head. Ah. Lu Chen quickly stood up and greeted politely, "Hello, Teacher Gao." There were 3 famous baldies in the entertainment industry. They were all big shots in their respective industries. One was a pop singer, one was a movie actor, and the last one was the skit artist in front of them, Gao Dusheng. He had a big bald head, squinting eyes, a bulbous nose, thick lips. The way he smiled had a charm that made people laugh. This was a face that everyone in the country was very familiar with. It was an ugly face that had a unique personality. But Gao Dusheng did not live up to the name of an artist because of other people's flattery, but because of the reputation he had accumulated in his more than 20 years of acting career. He was a senior who truly excelled in both virtue and skill. Disregarding everything else, just the Spring Festival Gala alone, he had participated in it 7 times. This year would be his 8th. Chen Feier did not dare to neglect this senior in the industry. He quickly put down the lunchbox and stood up to greet him. Gao Dusheng smiled and said, "Take a seat. I'm just here to have a chat. Sorry for disturbing you." Lu Chen and Chen Feier were a little embarrassed. Lu Chen quickly said, "Not at all. We just finished eating." Gao Dusheng sat down with a smile and said to him, "Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. It's just that the timing was not right. Today, I finally got the chance." Gao Dusheng took the initiative to find Lu Chen. He wanted to talk to Lu Chen about the skit script written by Lu Chen. At that time, the executive director of this year's Spring Festival Gala, Chen Guoji, found Lu Chen and invited Lu Chen to participate in the Spring Festival Gala of the Year of the Dog. As a result, Lu Chen took out 2 original works and a skit script, and threw them to the great director. Chen Guoji originally expected Lu Chen to come up with a good program. He did not expect Lu Chen to come up with 3, and all of them were excellent, which made him unable to give them up. However, it was not easy for Chen Guoji to put all 3 programs on the Spring Festival Gala. First of all, he did not have the final say in the Spring Festival Gala. He had to face all kinds of interests, so it was impossible for him to do as he pleased. But in the end, Chen Guoji still eliminated the difficulties and pushed Lu Chen's works as the focus of the program. For this reason, he specially invited many big names to ensure the effect of the program. For example, Chen Guoji gave the skit written by Lu Chen to Gao Dusheng. The latter's image not only matched the setting of the characters in the script, but his acting skills were enough to crush a lot of his peers. It should be known that Lu Chen's skit had squeezed out another program of the same kind that had already been selected. No one said it openly, but there were a lot of people talking about it behind it. God knew how many pairs of eyes were watching it. Gao Dusheng and Chen Guoji had been friends for many years, so he understood the weight of it. Out of a serious and responsible attitude towards work, he took the initiative to talk to the original author, Lu Chen, during the lunch break. It sounded like a very normal thing. There was nothing to fuss about when actors and scriptwriters communicated. But in fact, many actors nowadays did not care about the author at all. You just had to write the script, and how you acted was up to me. There was no need for you to tell me what to do. That was the director's job. In fact, many celebrity artists did not even listen to the director's words, and often acted on their own. Gao Dusheng was a big name in the industry. When he appeared on the stage of the Spring Festival Gala, Lu Chen was still running around naked. Moreover, no matter how famous Lu Chen was, they were not on the same level as him. He did not need to care about Lu Chen at all. But Gao Dusheng used a very equal and even humble attitude to communicate with Lu Chen about the creative intention, plot idea, spiritual connotation, and so on of the work. Lu Chen naturally told him everything he knew. And when it came to analyzing the work, he felt that he was not as good as Gao Dusheng. This made Lu Chen feel rather ashamed. After all, the source of his work was his memories from the dream world. The exchange between the two of them lasted for more than an hour, until the staff assistant came over to remind him. Gao Dusheng said to Lu Chen, "This is the best script I've received in the past 10 years. Lu Chen, I really hope that you can create a few more scripts. We're really lacking good scripts right now." Gao Dusheng was speaking from the bottom of his heart. In recent years, the viewership ratings of Central TV's Spring Festival Gala had been declining year by year. The audience's evaluation of language shows was getting worse and worse, and he was feeling anxious about it. The script that Lu Chen had brought out really made Gao Dusheng feel like he had finally met a good rain after a long drought. Lu Chen nodded and said, "Teacher Gao, I'll do my best." Gao Dusheng smiled in relief. "Thank you." This word of thanks was not only for himself, but also for the entire skit industry. The afternoon rehearsal did not end until 4 p.m., but Lu Chen was not able to leave early, because a director from Central TV personally came over to invite him for a discussion. And the content of the discussion was about the martial arts movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, that Chinfei Media would start shooting after the Spring Festival. Chapter 782. Many people didn't know that CCTV also made movies. It had a professional film production department, shooting more than a dozen movies every year. Whether in terms of scale, strength or output, it was not inferior to a large movie company. However, CCTV's movies were mainly documentaries, followed by self-produced dramas. They were not broadcasted in cinemas but on their own movie channel. At the same time, they were sold overseas. In recent years, CCTV's film department began to set foot in the field of commercial movies. They had participated in the shooting and production of many commercial blockbusters, and achieved quite good results. Of course, from the point of view of a commercial movie company, it was undoubtedly a good thing to be able to cooperate with CCTV. CCTV's strength was beyond doubt. Its publicity and promotion ability were unparalleled, and its production and shooting standards were among the best in the country. However, CCTV's brand was too big, and they were very picky. Not everyone was qualified to cooperate with them. Lu Chen had been in the film and television industry for a long time, so he naturally knew some inside stories. Therefore, when the director of CCTV's film production department, Dong Fonghao, personally came to him to discuss the cooperation of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he was more or less a little surprised. "Our department became independent at the end of last year." Dong Fonghao was in his 40s. He was handsome and well-dressed, a typical successful man. He didn't have much of the temperament of a person in the system. He was more like an elite in the business world. In response to Lu Chen's doubts, he smiled and explained, "A new video company has been set up to engage in the shooting, production and promotion of movies. Although it is still under CCTV, it is responsible for its own profits and losses." Lu Chen was suddenly enlightened. Naturally, he was very clear about Dong Fonghao's purpose. New Video was like a son of CCTV's boss. No, to be more accurate, it was a grandson, and it was one of them. Originally, he had been raised in the big house with good food and drinks, but now he had set up his own company. It was definitely not a bad thing to set up an independent company. It meant that he would have more autonomy. However, although they were still related by blood, the boss did not care about his grandson's food and drink. In the future, the grandson would have to rely on himself. Dong Fonghao was also the general manager of New Video. He had a large number of people under him. How could he not worry? Under the circumstances that they couldn't completely rely on CCTV, New Video naturally couldn't do anything. Taking the initiative to find business opportunities and expand the market was their way of survival. Even so, the background of the new movie was something that no one could ignore. Lu Chen couldn't help but be interested. He thought for a while and said, "Director Dong, I'm very happy to cooperate with New Video. But at present, the proud swordsman already has many partners, so I'm afraid we need to sit down and discuss the specific cooperation plan." After Chinfei Media released the news that they were going to shoot The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, many people came to their door. In addition to the existing partners, all the major domestic film companies and cinemas basically expressed their interest in cooperating with them. Not to mention the people in the circle, there were also a lot of people outside the circle waving money and breaking the threshold. Because of the great influence of The Smiling, the proud martial artist in China, it had created a large number of fans of new wuxia novels. With the marketing and promotion of Chinfei Media, it had become a popular IP with great market potential. The most important thing was that Lu Chen and Chen Feier were both going to act in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Chen Guoji was the director. With these three big shots, it would be hard for them to make a loss unless they made a mess. Has Chinfei Media ever done any unprofitable business? The answer was obviously no. Therefore, it was normal for New Video to want to get involved. Lu Chen also welcomed it. It didn't matter who he wanted to cooperate with. The key was whether it could bring profits. New Video had enough qualifications, but the premise was that they couldn't be too greedy. Lu Chen also had to take care of the interests of all sides. It had only been more than 3 years since his debut. Lu Chen had grown from a nobody in an underground house to a top star with more than 1 billion assets. In addition to the wealth of memories from the dream world, he also understood the principle of a just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. He was willing to give up the immediate benefits in exchange for long-term development. People who liked to eat alone were not welcomed anywhere. But knowing how to share benefits didn't mean that he didn't have his own persistence and bottom line. Lu Chen had always done well in this aspect. Dong Fonghao said seriously, "Of course. I came here today mainly to meet you, Mr. Lu. We will have many opportunities to cooperate in the future. Even if we don't succeed this time, there will be next time." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Thank you for your understanding, Director Dong." The two looked at each other and smiled. Dong Fonghao stood up and was ready to leave because Lu Chen was here for rehearsal today. Lu Chen's expression changed. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated. He didn't expect Dong Fonghao to be so sensitive. He immediately smiled and asked, "Mr. Lu, what do you want to say?" He sat down again and said, "As long as I can help, I'm fine with it." Lu Chen was hesitating whether to say it or not. Seeing Dong Fenghao's attitude, he simply said it. "I have an idea." As he said this, he asked his assistant to bring a tablet and opened the document stored in it for Dong Fonghao to see. Lu Chen's idea didn't come up for a long time. It appeared during his martial arts competition with Li Zhaoqing in South Korea. That was to hold a large-scale casting event for the movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The form of the casting event was based on the popular reality TV shows, and the selected targets were young people who had practiced martial arts, such as traditional martial arts, sanda, kickboxing, taekwondo, judo, etc. The purpose was to select the outstanding people from them to participate in the movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, TV series, and the shooting and production of the future wuxia IP. Lu Chen's preparation for the wuxia IP plan began very early. The Lu family squad was one of the teams he created for this plan. However, the current number of members in the Lu family squad was not large. It was not enough to shoot a wuxia movie. If it was shooting a long TV series, it would be even worse. Therefore, the expansion of the Lu family class was imperative, and holding a casting event was undoubtedly the most convenient and fast way to select excellent talents. Originally, Lu Chen planned to cooperate with Beijing Television, but today he met Dong Fonghao. He wondered if he could cooperate with Central TV to produce this talent show, because whether it was strength or influence, Central TV could easily crush Beijing Television. Because the movie was about to start shooting, He didn't leave too much time for this event, so he needed a strong partner to solve many problems. If Central TV was interested, then it would undoubtedly be the best choice. As for this movie casting activity, Lu Chun named its theme, "The Storms of the Eight Directions Will Meet in the Capital." Chapter 783. The Eight Storms Will Meet in the Capital. Dong Fonghao was instantly moved by the program plan that Lu Chun came up with. His current position is the director of CCTV Film Production Department and the general manager of New Video. His main business is film projects, but this does not mean that he is not familiar with the popular talent shows. On the contrary, Dong Fonghao is very clear that CCTV attaches great importance to variety shows at present. They have been brewing and preparing a number of variety entertainment brand programs to actively respond to the challenges from major local satellite TV stations. Today's CCTV is no longer the invincible and crushing ratings hegemon 20 years ago. Although no one can shake its position as the leader, it has been surpassed by the satellite TV stations in many aspects. For example, Shonan TV, Zhejiang Satellite TV, Huhai Satellite TV, and even Beijing Television have their own competitive products to divide the market, mainly focusing on TV series and variety shows. The most typical example is undoubtedly Lu Chun's cooperation with Zhejiang Satellite TV and Beijing Satellite TV on several TV series. In terms of ratings, CCTV's primetime TV series have been defeated. There is also the reality singing talent show, The Voice of China, whose ratings are also disdainful. With the help of the cooperation with Lu Chun, the two major satellite TV stations made a lot of money, especially Beijing Television. Many people came to CCTV and their voices were much rougher. It would be a lie to say that CCTV doesn't care about this, and is not the least bit jealous. Now that Lu Chun has taken the initiative to seek cooperation with CCTV, and has come up with a very operable talent show plan that will inevitably have a major impact, how can Dong Fonghao remain indifferent? Even though he wasn't in charge of this, it was more than enough for him to get the credit of recommending him. After a hurried glance at the document on the computer, Dong Fonghao immediately said, "I will call Director Zhao Gang over right away. He is the director of the program department of the Variety Channel." Lu Chun smiled and said, "Don't be so anxious, Director Dong. I will send this plan to you first, and then we will set a time to talk about it in detail. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow is fine." He is not afraid that the plan will be leaked, because this program plan is completely aimed at the smiling, proud wanderer. It is useless for others to copy it, and Dong Fonghao is not that stupid. Dong Fonghao was anxious. "Can't we do it at night?" Director Dong couldn't wait to finalize it on the spot to avoid any more problems. However, Lu Chun was very apologetic. "I really don't have time tonight. I promised to go to Brother Tan Hong's house for a gathering, so..." Of course, Dong Fonghao couldn't force him, so he rescheduled the appointment to tomorrow. The afternoon rehearsal lasted until 5 p.m. before it ended. Although Central TV had given out buffet vouchers, other than the extras and staff, basically no one would be greedy for this meal. Lu Chun and Chen Feier were no exception. The two of them went to Tan Hong's house to try Song Wanliu's cooking. After Tan Hong retired from the music industry, Lu Chun became even more familiar with him. It was not the first time that he had been a guest at his home. He was also very familiar with Tan Hong's wife and daughter. There were not only two guests, but Lu Gangxing was also there. Lu Gangxing and Tan Hong have known each other for many years. Although one is in Xiangjiang and the other is in Beijing, and it is rare for them to bump into each other every 2 to 3 years, Lu Gangxing will always get together with Tan Hong to chat whenever he is in Beijing. This time, Lu Gangxing came to Beijing for the Spring Festival Gala rehearsal, so he had to visit a few old friends. When they arrived at Tan Hong's house, Song Wanlu had already prepared the meal. Everyone is friends, so there is no need for formalities. Soon, they sat down to eat and drink, and the atmosphere was very lively. After the family dinner, Chen Fei helped Song Wanlu clear the dishes, while Tan Hong, Lu Chun, and Lu Gangxing sat in the living room, drinking tea and chatting. The three of them inevitably talked about Lu Chun's recent trip to Korea. Even a person like Tan Hong, who has a mild personality, was full of praise for Lu Chun's victory over Li Zhicheng. Lu Gangxing laughed and said, "I also watched the live broadcast. Young Chun is indeed very good. Even my 2 bodyguards are very impressed, saying that they are no match for you at all. The bodyguards that Lu Gangxing hired were naturally not ordinary people. To be able to convince them, of course it was because of his ability. Lu Chun said a few humble words, and then talked about the upcoming movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, as well as preparing for the casting of this movie. Speaking of this, Lu Gangxing really had something to say. I don't care about your casting, but the role of Xiang Wentian belongs to me. Lu Gangxing's role in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was something that was confirmed a long time ago, but in terms of the role, this king of Xiangjiang was still uncertain at that time. There were 2 roles that he liked, namely Lu Zhengfeng and Xiang Wentian. Now he finally made a decision. With Lu Gangxing's ability and fame, if he wanted to make a movie, a lot of movie companies would definitely kneel down and give him the script for him to choose. He would definitely be the absolute leading role. And Lu Gangxing was willing to play a supporting role in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. In addition to the factor of his friendship with Lu Chun, the most important factor was that he was interested in the script and was looking forward to new challenges in acting. Lu Chun laughed and said, "Of course, no problem." He had already kept the 2 roles of Lu Zhengfeng and Xiang Wentian, waiting for Lu Gangxing's decision. Although the 2 supporting roles didn't have many scenes, with Lu Gangxing's participation, the box office could at least increase by 100 million. Lu Gangxing still felt it was a pity. Actually, Lu Zhengfeng is not bad. Lu Chun thought of something and immediately said to Tan Hong, "Brother Tan, why don't you play Lu Zhengfeng?" Tan Hong looked confused. "Ah." After a while, he understood and shook his head. "You mean you want me to act? Then I really can't." Tan Hong had been famous in the pop music industry for many years. Except for a lot of music videos, he really hadn't acted in any serious movies, let alone a big commercial production like The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, so he instinctively refused. But Lu Gangxing praised. "Good, Tan Sheng is very suitable to play Lu Zhengfeng, I support him." Lu Chun encouraged. "There's nothing wrong with it. There aren't many scenes. It's not a big deal to shoot a few more times." Tan Hong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When he was about to insist on refusing, Song Wanlu came over with Chun Fei, and asked curiously, "What are you talking about? What is it?" Lu Chun smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, we are talking about making a movie. I want Brother Tan to play a role." Chun Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. "That's great." Lu Chun didn't give Tan Hong a chance to refuse. He pulled Chun Fei to sit down, took out his mobile phone and handed it to Song Wanlu. "Sister-in-law, take a photo of us. I'll announce the news first." For people, Lu Chun, Chun Fei, Lu Gangxing and Tan Hong, respectively represented 4 roles. Ling Huchong, Renning Ying, Xiang Wentian and Lu Zhengfeng. For real big shots, this was definitely a very special and very interesting group photo. Chapter 784. Few stars and artists in the world didn't use blogs. Now it was the age of the internet. The number of netizens was unprecedented, and basically included the corresponding people in the entertainment industry. Therefore, even very unique stars would follow the trend and open a blog. Even if they didn't use it much, it was very good as a publicity platform. Many stars and artists used their blogs to great effect. Not only did they have a special team to manage their blogs, but they also liked to refresh their blogs 10 times a day. They even took a few pictures of their meals and shoes to show the world. In contrast, as the most popular star in the domestic entertainment industry, Lu Chen's frequency of posting on his blog is not high. He doesn't hype, fight, or sell advertisements. In addition to his daily show of affection and dog food, he only interacts with his friends in the circle and posts some interesting photos. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the greater its value. It was precisely because he didn't post often and had hundreds of millions of fans that his blog posts attracted a lot of attention. This group photo of the 4 people in Tan Hong's house was posted on Lu Chen's personal blog at 8:15 p.m. At 9 p.m., it reached the top of the hot list on the homepage of Waves's blog. The number of reposts and comments both exceeded 1 million, setting a record for Waves's blog. Lu Chen, Chun Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong represented different levels and histories of the Chinese music industry. The 4 of them stood at the top of the music industry, and their album sales combined were absolutely amazing. However, the most interesting thing was that the photo of the four had nothing to do with pop music, but a movie that hadn't started yet. The name of the movie was The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Of course, the most excited were the martial arts fans cultivated by The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. It had been 1 or 2 years since The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published. During this period, it had been reprinted and republished many times. It had been on the sales list of Xinhua Publishing Company. At present, it had even been translated into many languages and published in many countries in Southeast Asia. It had considerable influence. Of course, the domestic martial arts fans were the most. They had long been looking forward to The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer movie and TV series. Naturally, the reaction to this special photo was the strongest. Lu Gangxing is playing Xiang Wentian? That's great. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect Tan Hong to have a cameo role. Whose house is this? Wow, Chen Feier is so beautiful. Don't say anything else, just hurry up and start shooting. When the time comes, I'll contribute 2 movie tickets. I'll contribute 5. But that was not the end. 2 hours after the photo was posted, Lu Chen posted a new blog post. This blog post was officially leaked. He said that after the new year he would start a nationwide audition for actors for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and make a talent show to select the best talents to participate in the filming of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. At the same time, he added the basic requirements for participating in the election. This blog post was even more sensational than the previous one, because it provoked the nerves of countless people. I want to sign up. I just want to ask, is it too late to learn martial arts now? Those who have no strength in their limbs express their great regret. The storms of the 8 directions will gather in the capital? Does it mean that the qualifiers will be held in Beijing? I also want to act. Many people had a dream of becoming a star. In most people's eyes, it was easier to be an actor than a singer, and it was easier to be famous to act than to sing. The latter required a good voice or good looks. Therefore, there were many people applying for film academies every year. Every major film and television studios were full of people pursuing their dream of becoming a star. In fact, the road of an actor was more difficult than the road of a singer, and the competition was more intense. But to stand under the spotlight and appear on the big screen was a strong temptation to countless people. It's just that for them, the biggest problem is that there is no way or opportunity. But now Lu Chen's movie actually wants to audition actors. Even if there are all kinds of restrictions and requirements, many people who meet or don't meet the conditions and are interested in this area are all excited. Not to mention ordinary people, even some second or third-rate artists in the circle half-jokingly, or half-seriously expressed their desire to participate in the talent show. These artistes knew Lu Chen's capability too well. All the projects he participated in were extremely profitable. Those who were involved in the projects all benefited a lot. Some even became famous overnight. So even if they were to play a small supporting role in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, it was still an extremely good thing. Not to mention that the movie had already booked 4 real big names. It was simply a feast. Of course, Lu Chen sent out these 2 blog posts on purpose, but the influence caused by it actually exceeded his expectations. After a short period of fermentation, it quickly caused a sensation inside and outside the circle, and made countless people ready to make a move. To be continued. As a result, the next morning, while Lu Chen was still asleep, he was woken up by the phone ringing next to his pillow. He opened his eyes in a daze and took out his cell phone to see that it was only 7 o'clock. The sky outside was not fully bright yet. The number was a little familiar, but it was not in his contact list. Who was it? Lu Chen was a little puzzled as he pressed the call button. Hello. A deep voice came from the phone. Teacher Lu Chen, I'm really sorry to disturb you. I'm Chen Qi from Beijing Television Station. Lu Chen originally thought that someone had made a mistake, but he did not expect it to be the deputy director of Beijing Television Station, Chen Qi. He quickly said, Hello Director Chen. What's the matter? Lu Chen had a good relationship with Chen Qi, but it was limited to work, so the latter was not on his list of relatives and friends. However, with Chen Qi's connections, it was not strange for him to know his private cell phone number. Of course, normally, Chun-Chi would not suddenly call him early in the morning for no reason. In fact, Lu Chen had already guessed it. Sure enough, Chun-Chi laughed and said, "Is it convenient to have breakfast together? It's my treat." The deputy director of Beijing Television personally called to invite him to breakfast. He was definitely giving him a lot of face. However, Lu Chen said with a wry smile, "Director Chun, let me treat you to breakfast, but I'm afraid you will be disappointed." What kind of person was Chun-Chi? He immediately reacted. You didn't give it to Zhejiang Television, did you? Of course not Zhejiang Television. Lu Chen said with a smile. It's Central TV. Chun-Chi was speechless. If it was Zhejiang Television, he could communicate with Lu Chen confidently, but if it was Central TV, he really could not. This breakfast was still treated to by Chun-Chi. After breakfast, the people from Central TV contacted Lu Chen, and the impact of the audition for the smiling, proud wanderer had just begun. Chapter 785. Xiangnan Hingyang. Before the sun rose in the morning, Nanyue Hengshan Neo Martial Arts School's internal broadcast system started on time. Exciting music instantly rang throughout the school, waking up the teachers and students from their dreams. In room 317 of the A3 dormitory, Meng Hu rubbed his sleepy eyes, lifted his warm blanket, and got up to get dressed. He had to move quickly, or else it would be troublesome if the toilet was occupied by someone else. He would have to run to a public toilet far away, and if he missed his morning exercise, the consequences would be dire. Nanyue Hengshan Neo Martial Arts School was the most famous professional martial arts school in Xiangnan. It had a history of more than 30 years, and had nearly 10,000 teachers and students. Although it was a private school, it was larger than many public high schools or technical secondary schools. Unlike ordinary high schools and technical secondary schools, Hengshan Martial Arts School implemented a closed military management. All students lived on campus, not even on Saturdays or Sundays. Their basic necessities, food, lodging, and entertainment were all handled on campus. It was very strict. It was precisely because of its strictness that many parents sent their children, who could no longer be controlled, to this school for life re-education. Hengshan Martial Arts School's graduates had good prospects. Some joined the army, some entered the police academy or university, some became security guards, some became fitness trainers, and some even became professional athletes. At the very least, they could build a strong physique after 3 years. Meng Hu came from the old rural area of Gannan province. His family was poor, and his grades in school were very average. Therefore, he wanted to learn something and work early to reduce the burden on his family. Someone from his village had studied in Hengshan Martial Arts School for 3 years, and was now the captain of a security company with a monthly salary of more than 10,000. This villager had a good relationship with Meng Hu's family. He promised Meng Hu that as long as he graduated from Hengshan Martial Arts School, he would recommend him to this company. The starting salary would be at least 3,000. Meng Hu's family was very grateful to this. They took out all their savings to support Meng Hu in Hengshan Martial Arts School. Hengshan Martial Arts School's tuition was quite high, but the entry requirements were very low. As long as one reached the age of enrollment and was healthy, they could basically get in. Meng Hu knew that this opportunity did not come easily. Therefore, he studied very hard in the 2 years he had been in the school. As a result, he improved very quickly. His MMA skills were top-notch among his peers. He had also matured a lot. Originally, Meng Hu thought that his life would be like this. After 3 years, he would graduate from Mount Hung Martial Arts School and enter the security company of his hometown to work. He would first work as a small security guard to accumulate experience and slowly rise to the position of vice captain, captain, and if he was lucky enough, becoming a supervisor or even a manager would not be a dream. Now that he had started earning his salary, he had to help his younger siblings. His younger siblings' academic performance was much better than Meng Hu's, and they would definitely go to university in the future. His family was also in debt because of him. After paying off his debt, and supporting his younger brother and sister to go to college, only then could he think about his own life. Perhaps there would be a girl who was not so pretty, but kind, who would be willing to follow him. The two of them would work hard to save money, get married, have children, and build a house. But now, Meng Hu had a new idea. This thought was so strong that it was like a wildfire burning in his young heart, causing him to be unable to sleep well the whole night. There was always a kind of unwillingness and impulse beating along with his heart. The martial arts school students' morning exercise ended at 7:45 a.m. After the morning exercise, it was a 30-minute break for breakfast. After breakfast, it was time for the morning's cultural class. Tiger. In the cafeteria, Menghu had just gotten his meal when a student waved at him and greeted him. Menghu's heart instantly tightened. He looked around instinctively, then quickly walked over with his plate. The other person was his best friend in the martial arts school, Li Dongyang. There were a few other people sitting with Li Dongyang, including two of Menghu's dormitory classmates. They left a seat for Menghu. Everyone was very vigilant. It felt like they were meeting up with an underground gang in a movie. Li Dongyang secretly took out his phone from his underwear pocket. He lowered his voice and said, "All of you keep an eye on it. The results should be out today. I hope all of us can pass." Everyone nodded in unison, trying their best to act as if nothing had happened. However, all of their attention was on Li Dongyang. The martial arts school did not allow the use of mobile phones. If they needed to communicate with the outside world, they could only use landlines. However, there were always some clever students who could think of ways to hide from the school's inspection and surreptitiously use their mobile phones to go online. What Li Dongyang was going to do now was definitely a big deal for them. The student cafeteria and the teacher's cafeteria were separate, so it was relatively safer here. At least, they would not encounter any sudden inspections. However, the 30-minute breakfast time was very limited, so Li Dongyang had to speed up. His fingers were flying as he tapped on the screen and opened the registered email. "There's a result." After a while, Li Dongyang said softly. His eyes revealed a look of excitement. The student sitting next to him almost dropped the chopsticks in his hand. Menghu could not help but swallow his saliva. It was supposed to be a very short time, but it felt like an eternity. Li Dongyang said in a hoarse voice, "Century Egg, King passed." Century Egg sat opposite Menghu. When he heard this, he jumped up immediately. Fortunately, Menghu was quick enough to hold him back. Otherwise, this brat would have jumped straight to the sky. Even so, it still attracted a lot of curious gazes. Li Dongyang immediately put away his phone vigilantly. He picked up his steamed bun and gnawed on it. He looked at Century Egg fiercely. Century Egg chuckled and scratched his head embarrassedly. When he felt that no one was paying attention to him, Li Dongyang took out his phone again and continued checking. "Third bro, King passed too. Little Lin, you didn't pass. Chunzi, congratulations." Menghu listened to the familiar nicknames. He was extremely nervous, and his face was flushed. "Tiger, you passed too." His clenched fists suddenly loosened, and then he clenched them again. Although he had some confidence, when he heard the news that he passed, it still made this 18-year-old boy extremely excited. "I passed, I'm going to the capital." Menghu passed the online audition of the big movie actor talent show, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, with the theme of wind and rain gathering in the capital. Among the 7 people sitting with Li Dongyang, 5 of them actually passed the online audition. This meant that they were qualified to go to the capital to participate in the live audition of the show. It was possible for them to become an actor in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Chapter 786. The news of the audition for The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was first announced by Lu Chen on his personal blog, and then confirmed by the official blog of Chunfei Media. They also announced the audition criteria and rules. Any adult between the ages of 18 to 35, regardless of gender, as long as they were healthy and had a basic foundation, such as learning traditional martial arts, sanda, taekwondo, judo, kickboxing, and so on, could sign up for the competition. The initial audition used the online registration method. Applicants needed to fill in their basic personal information and attach a short video that could prove that they had learned martial arts. The deadline for the audition was January 25th, and the results of the audition would be announced on January 28th. All the people who passed the audition had to come to the capital on February 25th to participate in the program recording that would officially start on March 1st. A group of outstanding people would be selected to participate in the filming of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Chunfei Media further revealed that the talent show, wind and rain gathering in the capital, had been confirmed to cooperate with the Central Television Variety Channel, so the contestants would definitely be able to appear on the stage of the Central Television Variety Channel. In addition, Chunfei Media would also be responsible for the travel expenses of all the contestants, as well as their accommodation during the recording of the program. They would also be given different rewards according to the ranking, and even have the opportunity to sign with Chunfei Media. Once the news was announced, it immediately caused a great sensation. The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, the Central Television Variety Channel, Chunfei Media, Luchen. Any one of these keywords was enough to attract people's attention. Now that they were all gathered together, it was hard for people to move their eyes away. When Menghu got the news, it was only a few days before the online audition registration deadline. The main reason was that the management of the martial arts school was too strict, so they could only watch the TV news for half an hour at night. However, the martial arts school was not a military-restricted area, so it could not be completely isolated from the world. Therefore, the news still spread and was known by many students. It was already surging. Last year, in the library of Hengyang Martial Arts School, the most borrowed book was The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. Because of the special theme of this martial arts novel, it was included in the list of books by the school. As a result, it became the most popular reading material among the students. Many students were fascinated by it. Because of the shortage of books, there were a lot of copies of the novel, which were circulated among the students. Therefore, in Hengyang Martial Arts School, the original work of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer had a great influence. The students were all hot-blooded teenagers, and they were easily influenced by the martial arts in the book. However, the world in the book was ultimately illusory and unreal. Just like the popular online novels nowadays, people mainly used it to relieve their worries and worries. But now, a chance suddenly appeared in front of them, saying that they could become actors in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It was very tempting to them. Menghu had also watched The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. He did not have any dream of becoming a star, but when such an opportunity was placed in front of him, the desire in his heart spread like wild weeds. Now he actually passed the online selection. Menghu was not the only one who passed the online selection. There were 4 other people who were equally lucky. Those who failed were naturally disappointed and sad, but the winners could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. Tiger, Li Dongyang happily said, "Let's go to the capital together after the new year." He and Menghu were both from Gan province, and their hometowns were only about 100 kilometers away from each other. They were really old cousins, so they became good friends in the martial arts school. He also passed the online selection. The selection criteria of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was actually very advantageous for martial arts school students like them, because they met all the requirements, and could easily crush ordinary people in many aspects. That was why they passed so many rounds. Of course, the online selection was relatively easy. If they went to the capital to participate in the audition, there would definitely be a large number of people rejected. The talent show would definitely select the best of the best. But for these 18 and 19-year-old teenagers, there was no such thing as failure in their minds. Even if they knew the chances were slim, it was totally worth it to go to the capital for free. Unexpectedly, Menghu shook his head and said, "No, I plan to go to the capital the day after tomorrow when the winter break begins." Everyone was shocked. Li Dongyang could not help but open his eyes wide. The official audition will only start on the 1st of March. Where are you going to stay now? Aren't you going home for the new year? He suspected that Menghu was so excited that he was talking nonsense. In fact, at this moment, Menghu was very calm. He said, "I've thought about it. It's best to buy a high-speed train ticket to the capital now. It will be very difficult to buy a ticket after the new year. If there is any delay." The Spring Festival had already begun. As the major colleges and universities began their winter break, the domestic traffic would inevitably usher in a new wave of peak. For example, in the capital, at least 10 million people would leave the capital every year to go home for the new year. The high-speed train tickets to all parts of the country were extremely popular. But to the capital, it was completely the opposite. But this was not the most important reason for Meng, who to give up going home to the capital. I heard that temporary jobs in the capital are very popular during the new year, and the pay is very high. If I go there as a part-time waiter or delivery boy, I can at least earn a few thousand a month, and I can also send it back to support my family. Isn't it 10 times better than going home? Li Dongyang and the others could not help but look at each other. No one had expected Meng Hu to be so thoughtful and mature. And Meng Hu lowered his voice and said, "Don't we have to pass 7 stages in the official audition? I want to go and find out what exactly these 7 stages are so that I can be prepared in advance." This time everyone was shocked. Li Dongyang's expression changed for a moment. He gritted his teeth and said, "Tiger, then I'll go to the capital with you for the new year." Meng Hu was stunned. "Then how are you going to tell your family?" Li Dongyang was the only son in his family. His family was much better off than Meng Hu's, so he did not need to work to support his family. "If I find out anything over there, I'll definitely tell you immediately." Li Dongyang smiled and patted his shoulder. "I've already decided. I'll go out and try my luck." The other youths looked at each other and made up their minds. 2 days later, Hingyang Martial Arts School started its winter break. Meng Hu, Li Dongyang, and a few other students returned their original train tickets and bought new high-speed train tickets to the capital. They traveled together, inadvertently becoming an extremely small countercurrent in this year's spring festival. But they were not unique. There were many more people with the same dream, converging on the capital from different directions, forming a new countercurrent. Chapter 787. Beijing Mesa Shopping Mall. This large shopping mall, located in the bustling area of Beijing's Second Ring Road, had just opened for business before the arrival of the new year. It had 7 floors, more than 30,000 square meters of operating area, and gathered a large number of international and domestic famous brands. Naturally, it had become the new benchmark in Beijing's business circle. As the Spring Festival approached, countless people who worked or studied in Beijing had left the metropolis. The originally bustling streets had become much emptier. The usual traffic jams from the Second Ring Road to the Fifth Ring Road had quietly disappeared. Even the capital's sky had become a lot bluer. But not all places became deserted. The newly opened Mesa Shopping Mall ushered in the peak before the Spring Festival. A large number of customers poured into it, buying the new era of New Year goods with extravagant spending. Clothes, leather bags, perfume, cosmetics, gold and silver jewelry, imported food, as if it didn't cost money. Even Fang Yun, who came here for the first time, was infected by the almost fanatical shopping atmosphere in the mall. She couldn't help but be extravagant, buying 2 sets of expensive designer clothes and a handbag. A few years ago, she was not willing to spend money on new clothes at all, because the new year was the most difficult time. She owed so many debts, and the word New Year was attached to too heavy a meaning. Since Lu Chen became famous, everything should have changed. The Lu family, who had lost their pillar of support, not only returned to their old life, but also became better than before. The platinum card in the Gucci handbag that Fang Yun had just bought contained 5 million yuan that Lu Chen had deposited. However, her son's filial piety was not the reason why she was happy. What she was really happy about was that at this moment, there were 2 daughters and a future daughter-in-law accompanying her. 2 days ago, Fang Yun came to Beijing with Lu Shui, who had just started her winter vacation. Because this year's Spring Festival, Lu Chen and Chen Feier both had to participate in the CCTV Spring Festival Gala. They would not be able to go home for the new year, so Fang Yun came by herself. In addition to the reason for the family reunion, there was also the reason that the new year in their hometown in Binhai could not be quiet. Lu Chen's reputation was getting bigger and bigger, and there were always a lot of messy people who came to visit during the new year. Some of them wanted to claim connections with relatives, some wanted to borrow money, some wanted to become singers and actresses, and some wanted to introduce jobs for their children. Back when the Lus were at their peak, Fang Yun didn't even know that she had so many relatives and old friends. It really annoyed her so much that she came to the capital to hide in peace. Fang Yun and Lu Shui arrived in the capital. Lu Shi took time out of her busy schedule to accompany her mother. Of course, Chen Fei didn't want to lose face. She turned down several events and specially brought her future mother-in-law to the mall for shopping. "Auntie, are you tired?" Chen Fei held Fang Yun's arm and said with concern. Let's go to the tea room on the 5th floor to rest. Fong Yun nodded with a smile and said, Okay, I'll listen to your arrangement. She couldn't be more satisfied with this future daughter-in-law. The only thing she cared about now was when she and Lu Chen would get married and have children. At that time, she could retire with a peace of mind and take care of her grandchildren. Chen Fei said with a smile, Then let's go up. As she spoke, she suddenly felt something strange. She couldn't help but turn her head to look to the right. In the crowd not far away, a man in a black jacket was holding a SLR camera and taking pictures of her. Seeing Chen Fei's gaze, the man desperately pressed the shutter and took more than a dozen photos in a row. Then he quickly turned around and disappeared. Chen Fei shook her head helplessly. These paparazzi were really everywhere. Today, because she was going to accompany Fong Yun to go shopping, she didn't disguise herself. As a result, she was followed and photographed. Fong Yun didn't understand. Seeing that Chen Fei's expression was a little strange, she quickly asked, What's wrong? Chen Fei immediately smiled and said, Nothing. Let's go. She wouldn't let such a small thing disturb the mood of herself and her future mother-in-law. 2 hours later, Waves Blog's well-known self-media blogger, Entertainment Gossip, released more than a dozen secretly taken photos with the title Chen Fei appears at Mesa Plaza to accompany future mother-in-law shopping. Among them, the most eye-catching was the photo of Chen Fei holding Fong Yun's arm and smiling. It immediately caused a lot of response on the blog. Many bloggers have reposted it, attracting a large number of comments from fans. What a warm picture. Is this Lu Chen's mother? She looks so young. My Chen's mother must have been a great beauty when she was young. My Chen is so handsome. Sure enough, it's in her genes. Hey, who's that little beauty next to her? That's my Chen's sister. I've seen Lu Chen's family photos. Do you think my Chen and my Fei's wedding is near? Haha, it's very likely. As everyone talked, they soon went astray. Many people believed that Lu Chen and Chen Fei had entered the stage of talking about marriage. Lu Chen's mother must have come to Beijing to prepare for the wedding. There were also people who said with certainty that Lu Chen and Chen Fei had already gotten a marriage certificate, but it was hidden from everyone. Therefore, Fong Yun was not a future mother-in-law at all. She was a real mother-in-law. What was even more outrageous was that someone revealed on the blog that Chen Fei was pregnant and would get married after the new year. She appeared at Mesa Plaza with her mother-in-law's family to buy baby supplies. Logically speaking, this kind of completely groundless rumor should not be believed by many people. However, things in the world were just that strange. Many people really believed it and ran to Lu Chen and Chen Fei's blogs to congratulate them. Then, more and more people believed it to be true. In the afternoon, the keyword Chen Fei is pregnant actually appeared on the hot search list on the homepage of Waves. When Lu Chen answered the phone in the swimming complex and heard the congratulatory call, he was completely confused. He wondered if the other party was playing an April Fool's joke on him. Who did you hear it from? Haha. Lin Jijia's hearty laughter came from the phone. Don't you know? It's going crazy on the internet. Everyone is saying that you and Fei are getting married because of the baby. Your mother is accompanying her to buy baby supplies at Mesa Plaza. Lu Chen's face turned into a big, awkward character. I'm going to faint. Lin Jijia laughed and said, I think it's impossible. The movie you two are starring in is about to start filming. How could you get pregnant at this time? Unless, cough cough. But everyone is very concerned about the two of you, haha. After ending the call with Lin Jijia, Lu Chen shook his head speechlessly and quickly called Chen Fei. Chen Fei already knew about it. Lu Shi was arranging the public relations department to refute the rumor. Lu Chen was relieved and returned his attention to the swimming complex. There was a very important test going on here. Chapter 788. The swimming pool was built in the 1990s. At that time, it was the largest and most well-equipped swimming pool in the capital, and it had many water entertainment facilities. Therefore, it became a place of childhood memories for many people in the capital. But now the swimming pool was undoubtedly outdated. Last year, the state allocated funds to renovate it. The swimming pool and various facilities in the main pool were renovated and upgraded. Finally, it kept up with the trend. Since 5 days ago, the main swimming pool had been closed to the public. A large number of equipment had been moved into the swimming pool, and a mobile castle had been built on the thermostatic swimming pool. This would become the recording site for the audition of the smiling, proud martial world. All the contestants would challenge 7 difficulties in the swimming pool, and then the best would be selected to enter the knockout stage. Today, Lu Chen came to the site to inspect the progress of the project. Because the creative ideas of this talent show were all provided by Lu Chen, and the rules were also made by him. In order to ensure the effect of the show, even the sketches of the equipment were drawn by him. First of all, 500 qualified contestants would be selected from the online applicants, and then they would come to the capital for the water challenge. The challenges included flying across the pontoon bridge, thrilling at every step, brave against the current, overturning rivers and seas, jumping over the dragon gate, taking a sharp turn down and climbing the peak. Each challenge was more difficult than the previous one. After 2 days of installation and debugging, the equipment for the first 4 challenges were basically in place. Because the equipment for the last 3 challenges were relatively complicated, the manufacturers were still working overtime to make them. It would take at least another week. In fact, this was already very difficult. This was because the water challenge was an original design, and there were no precedents to follow. All the equipment was specially ordered from the largest amusement equipment manufacturer in Beijing. Since it happened to be during the Chinese New Year, they had to pay a high price to ensure the progress. Moreover, the installation and debugging were not smooth. If there were any problems, they had to be solved on the spot. They even had to reassemble or make accessories. Therefore, Lu Chen had to spend a lot of energy on it. Therefore, he had no time to pay attention to the boring rumors on the internet. When one reached the level of Lu Chen and Chen Feier, their every move might fall into the eyes of others. Paparazzi would follow them and secretly take pictures of their daily trips, adding to the entertainment news. Unless it was malicious slander that affected the company's reputation, the company's public relations department would handle it appropriately. They would make statements and refute rumors as needed. It would not affect their work. Lu Laosher, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes, jogged over. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and asked carefully, "All the equipment has been tested. There are no more problems. Are we going to conduct a real person test now?" "All right." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Manager Zhang, thank you for your hard work." This middle-aged man was the manager sent by the equipment provider to supervise the construction. He had a lot of experience in the industry and had supervised the installation of many land and water entertainment facilities. However, the equipment set up on the swimming pool today was brand new. For Manager Zhang, it was a difficult challenge. Under normal circumstances, not many companies would accept orders before the new year and rush the work before the new year and install the equipment during the new year. However, the 2 brands of Lu Chen and Central TV were too loud, so the equipment providers could not refuse this cooperation at all. They did their best to ensure the smooth completion of the contract. Manager Zhang was a little flattered and quickly said, "It's not hard, it's not hard." He had not come into contact with any celebrity artists. To him, Lu Chen was undoubtedly a high and unattainable figure. He could only see him on TV and the internet, so he could not help but feel anxious. If he offended Lu Chen and made Lu Chen unhappy, the company's boss would probably skin him alive. When he came over this morning, the boss had pulled his ear and warned him repeatedly. He didn't expect Lu Chen to be so approachable, without any airs of a big star, which made him feel relieved. Manager Zhang was still thinking whether it was appropriate to ask Lu Chen for an autograph later. His daughter was a fan of Lu Chen. Knowing that her father had a working relationship with Lu Chen, she was so excited as if she had won a 5 million prize. Lu Chen didn't know the entanglement in his heart at this moment, and nodded to Wang Yong, who had been following him. Wang Yong was originally the coach of the Borui Club. Later, he and a group of people from the Borui Club were taken over by Lu Chen from Limushi and formed the Lu family squad, which was now quite famous in Hong Kong. The Lu family squad participated in the filming of the movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, and the TV series, You from the Star, and became an important force under Qinfei Media. However, for Lu Chen's full-scale martial arts IP plan, The current number of Lu family squad members was far from enough. That's why there was the 8 Storms meet in the capital. Lu Chen wanted to use this talent show to select excellent talents to expand the Lu family squad, so that he could show off his skills. The idea of the water challenge came from the memory of the dream world. It combined the characteristics of domestic and foreign programs in the dream world. Although the facilities could not be perfect due to time constraints, it was no problem as a tool to measure the ability of the contestants. The 7 levels had corresponding requirements for the contestants' physical fitness and responsiveness. It was easy for ordinary people to pass 1 or 2 levels, but it was not easy to pass 3 or 4 levels. The later levels were even more difficult. If they could break through all the levels, they would definitely be excellent talents worthy of training. After receiving Lu Chen's instructions, Wang Yong immediately called out, "Li Xiaoguang, you go up and try first." "Okay." A young man standing on the edge of the pool answered and quickly ran to the starting platform to move his hands and feet to warm up. He was also a member of the Lu family squad and came to the swimming pool as a tester today. Beep, as the whistle sounded, all the equipment that had been set up and installed was activated at the same time. The movable parts, including soft leather, moved up and down or began to rotate under the drive of the safety and waterproof motor, and a stream of water sprayed out. After warming up, Li Xiaoguang took a step and jumped onto the air cushion floating on the water. He strode along the pontoon bridge composed of short and narrow air cushions, and in the blink of an eye, he broke through the first level. His neat performance won bursts of applause from the onlookers at the scene. Chapter 789. Lu Chen's team was created by Lu Chen. At present, there were more than 20 official members, all of whom were signed to Chenfei Media. It could be called Lu Chen's important team. Although the number was small, Lu Chen's investment in this team was not low at all. The salary of the Lu family team members was higher than that of ordinary white-collar workers in Beijing, and they received a lot of subsidies during the filming period. Moreover, Lu Chen often trained with the Lu family team. The team's cohesion was very high, and their work performance was excellent. Li Xiaoguang was the youngest member of the Lu family team. He had just retired from the army last year, but his skills were very good. He also played a small supporting role in You from the Star, and was highly regarded by Wang Yong. Therefore, for this test challenge, Wang Yong sent him first, and Li Xiaoguang did not disappoint Wang Yong's expectations. He cleanly passed 2 levels in less than 30 seconds. According to the rules of the challenge, the time to pass was limited, and it was a bonus. Naturally, the faster, the better. Li Xiaoguang's results were undoubtedly very good. However, the difficulty of the 3rd stage, Torrential Rush, suddenly increased, and Li Xiaoguang was a little impatient. There were several times when he was almost washed into the pool by the jet of water. He completely relied on his extraordinary skills to adjust himself. The thrilling scene caused the onlookers to exclaim and gasp in surprise. At the scene of the swimming pool, in addition to the factory personnel who installed the equipment, there were many staff members of the swimming pool. Most of them were here to watch the fun, or to see the stars. Of course, the latter was more common. But now everyone's attention was focused on Li Xiaoguang, to see if he could pass the 4th level. Under everyone's gaze, Li Xiaoguang learned the previous lesson, and did not dare to underestimate and advance. He steadily passed through the more difficult overturning rivers and seas, and finally jumped onto the floating valve. It took a total of 5 minutes and 27 seconds to pass the 4 levels. After successfully passing the level, he excitedly waved his fist, which attracted bursts of applause from the audience. Manager Zhang smiled and said to Lu Chen, "This young man is really good. If I were to go up, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to pass the 1st level." Lu Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Well, let's try someone else." Since it was a test, the test sample should be more comprehensive. Li Xiaoguang was an elite member of the Lu family team. His performance could only be used as a basis for equipment debugging. According to his requirements, the difficulty of the challenge could be adjusted. If ordinary people could pass the 4th level, then it should be a little more difficult. After all, there were many people participating in the official audition. As soon as Chen made the request, someone volunteered, and it was the swimming pool staff. The swimming pool originally had water entertainment programs, but the creative form of the grand challenge was undoubtedly very new to them. And it looked very fun, so there were many people who were eager to give it a try. Of course, Lu Chen agreed. The equipment was able to be installed so quickly. In addition to the strength of the custom-made manufacturer, it was also indispensable to the strong support of the natatorium. Not only needed the swimming pool, but also needed to help. During the swimming pool, the Chen had also needed the swimming pool. But he also needed to help. The swimming pool had needed. Zhang's Zhou Chen's SS the swimming pool. In addition, Lu Chen could also see the swimming pool's intention. But it was not a big deal. If the swimming pool needed it, all the equipment could be sold to them after the program was recorded. It was a win-win situation. With Lu Chen's approval, the natatorium immediately sent 2 staff members, a man and a woman, to change into swimsuits and go into battle. Moreover, they were carefully selected handsome men and beautiful women. This is not surprising. In addition to Lu Chen being present for the equipment debugging, the CCTV variety channel has also sent personnel to track and shoot materials on the scene. The natatorium naturally has to take the opportunity to show its face and promote the swimming pool. For them, this cooperation with Qinfei Media and CCTV variety channel was like a big pie falling from the sky, and they really valued it. As a result, 2 temporary contestants, one fell in the 2nd level, and the other was washed into the pool by the torrent of the 3rd level. Neither of them could pass all the levels. That's about it. Lu Chen was very satisfied and said to Manager Zhang, "The difficulty doesn't need to be adjusted, but the equipment must be maintained in place to ensure stable operation during the program recording. And the equipment for the next 3 levels must be made as soon as possible." "Don't worry." As the representative of the equipment manufacturer, Manager Zhang said with a smile, "There is no problem with the quality. Our drive and control motors are imported, and we can guarantee that there will be no delay." Although this business came suddenly, and their company had spent a lot of effort and paid a lot of price, they could also get rich profits, and there were long-term benefits. Once the program was successful, there would be more orders flying in. Would this program be successful? That's 100% certain, because there's Lu Chen's resounding signboard. He smiled and said, "Teacher Lu, don't you want to try it yourself? Give me more valuable experience." This Manager Zhang was actually just casually saying that. Most of it was just a joke, but Lu Chen's heart really moved after hearing it. He nodded and said, "That's fine too." Manager Zhang didn't expect that his suggestion would be accepted by Lu Chen. He was stunned for a moment, and then he was overjoyed. If Lu Chen went in person, the publicity effect would be great. Lu Chen was a man who did what he said. He asked his assistant to find a pair of shorts for him first, and then he went to the changing room to change. It was freezing outside, but the indoor swimming pool was air-conditioned, and there was a thermostatic swimming pool, so Lu Chen simply took off his shirt and went in directly bare-chested. As a result, as soon as he appeared, he immediately attracted everyone's attention, especially a few young girls present. They were even looking at him with stars in their eyes. If it weren't for the rules of the on-site work, I'm afraid that they would immediately take out their mobile phones to secretly take pictures. Lu Chen was a star artist with both strength and idol. He was tall, handsome, and had a sunny and healthy appearance, but he rarely showed his body like today. He was not a muscular man, but he had a well-proportioned body, a wide back, a narrow waist, and smooth abdominal muscles. He gave people the feeling that he contained infinite power. In terms of temperament, he completely crushed the little fresh meats that filled the entertainment circle. The 2 cameras arranged on the scene were aimed at Lu Chen at the same time. Lu Chen stood at the starting point, warmed up his hands and feet for 2 minutes, and then under everyone's gaze, rushed to the first pontoon bridge. His speed was as fast as a hunting leopard, extremely fast and vigorous. The swimming pool was silent, and the camera's lens firmly followed the figure of Lu Chen's fast running, faithfully recording all his movements on the hard disk. Chapter 790. Beijing Changxi Road Shoe Flavor Hot Pot Restaurant. Food was the most important thing to the people. Most Chinese people were foodies, so the domestic food industry was particularly developed. It was unparalleled in the world. As long as there was a restaurant with a little specialty, whether it was a big restaurant or a small restaurant, there would always be a lot of customers. In recent years, the most special hot pot in Enchanting had become popular all over the country. Many hot pot restaurants with Sichuan characteristics had opened in the capital, and their business was also booming. Although Sichuan hot pot was very different from the beef and mutton hot pot that northerners often ate, people from all over the country gathered in the capital, plus tens of millions of tourists every year, so there was no lack of customers. Moreover, spicy hot pot was poisonous. Once you liked it, you would be poisoned and want to eat it every few days. The Shoe Flavor hot pot restaurant chain had been in the capital for only half a year, and it had already opened 3 branches. There were so many customers that there was basically no free time, especially since the beginning of winter. If customers arrived late, there would be no seats at all, and they could only wait in the lounge outside. Today was the Lunar New Year. The temperature in the capital had dropped sharply a few days ago, and it had snowed several times in a row. It was so cold that even a drop of water would turn into ice. At this time, it was really a good time to call 3 to 5 friends to sit in front of the hot pot and eat spicy hot pot. Although it was already past 8 o'clock in the evening, the Shoe Flavor hot pot restaurant chain on Changshi Road was still booming. The hall was full, and there were even people waiting in the lounge to get a number. They were ready to eat dinner and supper together. In the hall that was filled with the strong smell of hot pot, Meng Hu carried a hot kettle in one hand and a tray full of dishes in the other. He quickly and flexibly passed between the tables and delivered the food to the waiting customers. After delivering the orders, he could finally sit in the staff room to take a breather and fill his already rumbling stomach. The normal staff meal was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but Meng Hu was able to work and eat, so an extra meal was necessary. Although the extra meal in the evening was very simple, a big bowl of rice and mixed meat soup, Meng Hu was already very satisfied. Because the food and accommodation in the hot pot restaurant were free, he could basically save the money he earned. Meng Hu and a few of his classmates had been in Beijing for almost 2 weeks. Their luck was pretty good. Due to a large number of migrant workers leaving Beijing to celebrate the new year, various service industries were in urgent need of temporary workers, so they quickly found a job. Including Meng Hu, there were 5 students from Hingyang Martial Arts School. Some were waiters, some were couriers, and some were delivery boys. Even though they were temporary workers, their wages were not low. This was especially the case for delivery. The more deliveries, the more money they would earn. The salary would be doubled during the Chinese New Year. It was very tempting, but Meng Hu considered that he was completely unfamiliar with Beijing and did not have a good sense of direction, so he chose to be a waiter. This job wasn't bad. Not to mention that food and lodging were provided. He could earn at least 200 yuan a day with double hourly pay. He could live in Beijing for a month and still have 5,000 to 6,000 yuan to send back home. He was already very satisfied. Tiger. Meng Hu had just finished the last mouthful of meat soup mixed with rice in his bowl when the door to the staff room was pushed open. Li Dongyang jumped in with a sneaky smile on his face. "I knew you were hiding here to eat alone." Meng Hu couldn't help but roll his eyes. What? Li Dongyang also worked at the Shoe Flavor hot pot restaurant. According to him, brothers must be together so that they could take care of each other. However, he chose to help in the kitchen, saying that he wanted to secretly learn some skills. Maybe he could open his own hot pot restaurant in the future. In terms of quick-wittedness, Meng Hu was definitely not as smart as Li Dongyang. Li Dongyang presented his phone as if he was presenting a treasure. "Let me show you something good." Meng Hu's eyelids suddenly twitched. He instinctively looked around, then lowered his voice and said, "You're crazy. You're watching this during working hours. Aren't you afraid of being caught and fired?" The Shoe Flavor hot pot restaurant had good treatment, but the rules were very strict. Even temporary workers were no exception. Li Dongyang snickered and said, "What are you thinking? Do you think I'm going to show you a porn video? If you want to see it, then I'll download it for you when I go back to the dormitory tonight." Seeing that Meng Hu's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, he chuckled and said, "I'm not joking. You'll know when you see it." Meng Hu was very distrustful of Li Dongyang's character, but he still took the phone suspiciously. As a result, he really wronged his good friend this time. What Li Dongyang showed him was not an indescribable love action film, but a video in the latest blog of Chunfei Media. Meng Hu gave up going home for the new year, and came to the capital. The main purpose was not to work and make money, but to participate in the talent show, The 8 Storms Meet in the Capital, that would be held after the new year, so he was very sensitive to this news. He and Li Dongyang both registered the account of Wave's blog, and followed Lu Chen, Fei Media, and even the blogs of Central Television. At the same time, they saved several related forums, so that they could get first-hand information. Recently, for the actor talent show of the movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, the official blog of Fei Media frequently released news to maintain attention, but there was not much useful content. But the video that was released tonight was absolutely the real thing. It was impressively the test process of the audition, and Lu Chen personally went to the test. It was completely leaked by the official. It was really useful. Meng Hu's attention was immediately attracted. He stared at the screen without blinking, for fear of missing the details of every frame. Although he got the qualification to participate in the official audition, Meng Hu still knew nothing about the show. He only knew that he had to pass 7 stages, but he was completely unclear about what the 7 stages were. Now that the official video was released, if he did not take the opportunity to study it carefully, it would be equivalent to giving up the opportunity. After watching the 17-minute video, Meng Hu was lost in thought. Li Dongyang was a little uneasy and asked, "Tiger, how do you feel? Can we do it?" "Of course we can." Meng Hu clenched his fist and said, "I can definitely pass these 4 stages. But," he whispered again, "I'm afraid I can't be as fast as Lu Chen." The 19-year-old boy was a little depressed, because in the video, Lu Chen's skills and reflexes were amazing. He was not a layman, and he deeply understood the meaning of it. Li Dongyang laughed, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Who asked you to compare with Lu Chen? Is he someone we can compare with? We just need to be faster and better than other contestants." Meng Hu nodded, but in this young man's heart, he regarded Lu Chen as his goal to chase after. He wanted to be as fast and strong as Lu Chen. Chapter 791. The video released by Fei Media on the eve of the Lunar New Year's Eve caused a heated response on the internet as expected. People like Meng Hu and Li Dongyang, who had already qualified for the audition, were naturally the most concerned about the content of the information revealed in the video. Although they could only see the settings of the first 4 stages, they were now more confident than before when they were completely in the dark. Knowing the rules of the competition, seeing the operation of the equipment, coupled with the demonstrations of many people in the video, as long as they were not stupid, they could figure out a set of experience that suited them. However, Meng Hu and Li Dongyang were only a small group of people who entered the audition. Most of the netizens and fans were completely focused on different things. Wow, is this the New Year's benefit? TSK. Lu Chen's body is really unparalleled. It beats a bunch of little fresh meats in seconds. Don't compare little fresh meats to my Chen. It's an insult. Haha, this game is quite fun. I want to try it too. Where is this? Isn't it cold? My Chen is so handsome. Sigh, he could have made a living with his strength, but he chose to show off his body. He's crazy. I love it. Countless fans, especially female fans, reposted the video. They covered their faces and screamed with all kinds of love emojis. They loved him to death. Speaking of which, Lu Chen had announced his relationship with Fei a long time ago. Their relationship had always been sweet and stable, and they were regarded as the best couple in the entertainment industry. However, Lu Chen's fans, especially female fans, were also growing. This was actually not logical. When Lu Chen first debuted, he was regarded as more of an idol star. When an idol male star had a girlfriend, it would naturally disillusion many female fans, and they would often lose a lot of fans. Therefore, many artists did not easily disclose their relationships, or simply remain single. However, looking back at Lu Chen's road to fame over the past 3 years, it was normal for such a situation to occur. He did not rely on his looks, but his strength and talent to attract fans. In recent years, Lu Chen had continuously produced good works. The trilogy of urban romance had earned him a lot of popularity. Although he lost some fans when his relationship was first disclosed, the increase later on was too crazy. In fact, after many female fans had stopped being his fans, they would join him again and become true hardcore fans. They were undoubtedly Lu Chen's staunchest supporters. After accepting Lu Chen's relationship, their admiration for him increased. In their eyes, the video released by Chenfei Media could be called welfare. There were all kinds of praises, laughter, and ridicule, which made the blog lively. When ordinary passers-by saw this, they could only sigh deeply at Lu Chen's popularity. Just by showing off his figure, he was able to climb to the top of the trending list. It was an embarrassment to those in the industry who had spent so much effort to buy fans and popularity to gain their position. In contrast, the male fans were much more rational. Except for a few guys with special sexual orientations, no one pointed at Lu Chen's muscles. Everyone was once again shocked by Lu Chen's extraordinary skills. At the beginning of the video was Li Xiaoguang's test. In everyone's eyes, his performance was already extremely outstanding. Not only did he successfully pass 4 stages, but he also responded with ease and speed. It was almost impeccable. However, compared to Lu Chen, he was more than a level behind. Lu Chen was stronger and faster than him. According to the time at the scene, Li Xiaoguang took 5 minutes and 27 seconds to pass the 4 stages, while Lu Chen took 2 minutes and 22 seconds, less than half. In addition to the contestants who were going to participate in the audition, netizens and fans, many television stations and people in the leisure and entertainment industry also had a strong interest in this video. What they were concerned about was naturally this very interesting challenge plan. It could totally be imported as a separate program or entertainment project to be produced. The most important thing was that once it was on CCTV, it would definitely become popular all over the country. Even if they registered the copyright and paid a high price to buy the authorization, it would still be a profitable business. So many people rushed to contact Chenfei Media, wanting to follow and get some benefits. Even a few people with connections directly found Lu Chen in a roundabout way. However, Lu Chen was no longer in Beijing. The day after he completed the first test of the equipment in the swimming complex, he flew to Hangzhou with Chenfei, and will spend Valentine's Day in Hangzhou. Of course, the two didn't go to Hangzhou specifically to spend Valentine's Day, but Happy Entertainment's new game was about to be released. Happy Digital Interactive Entertainment Company, Limited, or Happy Entertainment for short, mainly operates online games and mobile games-related projects and businesses. It was a game company opened by Lu Chen and Gao He. Lu Chen invested tens of millions of yuan in Happy Entertainment and owned 90% of the shares. The first project produced by Happy Entertainment, Happy Farm, was a great success, creating a craze for stealing vegetables. In the end, the game was sold to QQ Games together with Happy Network at a high price of 575 million yuan. Although the craze for Happy Farm has subsided a lot, Happy Entertainment, the newborn calf, has also made a big name in the industry. Lu Chen's initial investment has returned dozens of times, and he continued to increase his investment, intending to make Happy Entertainment an important part of his wuxia IP plan. At present, the online game/mobile version of Happy Entertainment's flagship, The Smiling, Proud World, is being produced, and at the same time, the production and internal testing of the new mobile game Plants vs. Zombies has been completed. The idea of this mobile game was naturally provided by Lu Chen, from the memory of the dream world. In fact, after selling Happy Farm, Lu Chen gave Gao He a total of 5 mobile game ideas and project ideas. In addition to Plants vs. Zombies, Happy Entertainment also launched Fruit Ninja at the end of last year. Although it was not as successful as Happy Farm, it also caused a new mobile game craze. For the current mobile game industry, technology has never been difficult, creativity is the most important, and Lu Chen's continuous creative ideas ensure that Happy Entertainment can stand at the top of the industry. When Lu Chen saw Gao He again, it was at the new headquarters of Happy Entertainment. After the sale of Happy Farm, Lu Chen directly bought an office building in the new Binjiang IT Industrial Park in Hangzhou as the company's new headquarters. It's just that he gave full control of Happy Entertainment to Gao He and his wife, and he was busy with his own business. Today is the first time he came to the company's new headquarters. It's also a shame to say that as the actual owner of Happy Entertainment, Lu Chen usually pays little attention to the company, and at most, he only talks to Gao He on the phone. Gao He also has complaints, so this time when the new game Plants vs. Zombies was released, he brought Chen Fei along to do his duty. Chapter 792. They haven't seen each other for more than half a year. Gao He's dress and temperament have changed significantly. If he used to be a technical otaku, then now he has the style of an industry elite, and is much more confident. This is actually normal. After all, he is in charge of a game company with a total investment of hundreds of millions of yuan, more than 100 employees, and a well-known game company in the industry. But what hasn't changed is the friendship between him and Lu Chen. Old San, you should come to the company more often when you have time. In the VIP room of the company's new office building, Gao He joked, let's not talk about anything else. Let the employees see our big star chairman, and their morale will increase by 200%. Lu Chen smiled and said, aren't I here now? I bought a house in Hangzhou, and I will definitely come back often in the future. Gao He didn't believe it. You try to fool me. How many phone calls did I make this time to invite you over? Don't forget, happy entertainment is yours. Lu Chen was ashamed. The company's affairs all depend on you. I really can't handle it, so I can only rely on you. Gao He smiled and said, you can treat me like a cow or a horse. I owe you two. Xiaoling said that we owe you a favor that we can't repay in our lifetime. All we can do is to do happy entertainment well. The first part was a joke, but the latter part was absolutely sincere. At the time of graduation, Gao He and Wang Xiaoling faced a painful choice. Although they stuck to their love, they also endured the ruthless test of reality. If it weren't for Lu Chen's timely help and the establishment of happy entertainment, it would be difficult to say whether the love between the two would blossom and bear fruit now. Maybe they would have parted ways under the pressure of reality. There are really too many similar things. Lu Chen shook his head. We are brothers. Let's not talk about this. Do Old K and Old C have any contact with you? Gao He said. Old K immigrated to the United States. I basically have no contact with him, and I don't know any news about him. I sent him several messages, but he didn't reply. Old C is doing well in fading, but he has little contact with him. On the other hand, our class monitor Chow often asks you on QQ about when you will organize a class reunion. Life was like floating duckweed. After graduation, everyone went their separate ways. Everyone had their own opportunities and lives. Some people could become lifelong friends, while others would unknowingly lose contact. It's rare to reunite, and the topic between Lu Chen and Gao He can't help but turn to the memories of the past. There were always beautiful things that were worth reminiscing about. While the two of them were chatting, Wang Xiaoling was accompanying Chen Fei to play mobile games. The game they were playing was Happy Entertainment's upcoming Plants vs. Zombies. This strategy game was Happy Entertainment's first release, taking over half a year of painstaking work to complete. The quality of the game was without a doubt outstanding. Under Wang Xiaoling's guidance, Chen Fei quickly mastered the technique and was having a lot of fun. The biggest feature of this strategy game is that it's easy to get started, and it's very playable and addictive. The content of the game is actually very simple. Players can quickly and effectively block zombies on the road of invasion by arming a variety of plants to switch different functions and eliminate them. With the quality and creativity of the game, promotion naturally becomes the top priority. Although good wine is not afraid of deep alleys, clever marketing is a multiplier of benefits, and it can achieve the effect of moving 1,000 pounds with little effort. And this time, the responsibility of publicity still fell on Chen Fei. Last time Happy Farm could become popular quickly, Chen Fei's blog posts contributed a lot. Her number of fans on Wave's blog is second only to Lu Chen, and her influence is great. Now it's nothing more than the same trick. Chen Fei rarely uses blogs to do product marketing, but her own things are definitely an exception. After inspecting the company's new headquarters and encouraging the employees who worked overtime for the new year, Gao He and his wife treated them to dinner in the evening. After the reunion, Lu Chen and Chen Fei lived in their own home in Hangzhou. The new house in Hangzhou has been bought for a while, but the two spent most of their time in Beijing. They really didn't spend much time living here. However, before coming over, they had asked their assistant to hire someone to clean it up, so it was very clean. After taking a shower, Chen Fei leaned lazily in Lu Chen's arms. She mischievously drew circles on Lu Chen's chest with her fingers and asked, It will be Valentine's Day in a few days. How are you going to spend it? Lu Chen frowned. I don't know. Shopping, eating, watching movies, Chen Fei said. Old-fashioned. Lu Chen smiled and turned over to press her under his body. Then let's think about it while doing it. Chen Fei giggled and reached out to hug his neck. You're so annoying. In the bedroom, there was a spring scene. February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. Happy Entertainment released the mobile puzzle game Plants vs. Zombies version 1.0 on different mobile platforms. On that day, the single-player game surpassed 3 million downloads, causing quite a stir in the industry. The competition in the mobile game market was extremely intense. Big and small mobile game companies or companies that developed mobile games were as numerous as the hairs on a cow. The entire market had become a sea of blood. The more games there were, the more options the players had to choose from. The industry was now moving towards large-scale MMOs, and Plants vs. Zombies as a single-player game would be very difficult to compete with. However, the game quickly became a success and gained a good reputation in the market. First of all, Happy Entertainment had 2 successful games, Happy Farm and Fruit Ninja. In particular, Fruit Ninja had more than 50 million downloads, so Plants vs. Zombies stood at a very high starting point. Most importantly, Plants vs. Zombies was a very fun game. It was a great way to kill time on mobile. It was very creative and fun, and the characters were cute enough. It was very easy for users who didn't like or didn't have the time to play online games. And with Chen Fei's marketing for the game, it quickly gained a large number of fans. Since Plants vs. Zombies was a free game, and it was released before Valentine's Day, some fans asked if it was a Valentine's Day gift from Lu Chen and Chen Fei. That was definitely not the case. Lu Chen and Chen Fei's real Valentine's Day gift to their fans were 2 songs. One song from Lu Chen and one song from Chen Fei, and they were for the single people. Chapter 793. Hangzhou Baidi. After nightfall, Westlake had a completely different view than during the day. A waning moon hung high in the sky, and specks of starlight decorated the night sky. Compared with the scenery of lakes, mountains, and thousands of lights in the world, it was dazzling. Today was the 29th of the Lunar New Year, so there shouldn't be many tourists on the Baidi. However, the broken bridge was bustling with people, and there were couples everywhere. Because today was also Valentine's Day, many couples came here to take a walk, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the romantic time that belonged to 2 people, or sit by the lake or under the willow trees and whisper to each other. The air was filled with a sweet atmosphere. Lu Chen and Chen Fei walked in the crowd hand in hand. Both of them were wearing masks, and Chen Fei also added a knitted wool hat, so they didn't have to worry about being recognized. The most important thing was that the people around them were most concerned about the couple around them at this moment, and they wouldn't notice the existence of 2 big stars among them. Chen Fei's eyes were curved, and she held Lu Chen's hand and jumped a few times from time to time, as if she was a little girl who had just been immersed in love, exuding joy and happiness from the inside out. This was the 3rd Valentine's Day they had spent together. On this special day, they recalled their encounter, acquaintance, and love together. They felt that this was the greatest happiness in life. This handsome guy. As soon as they crossed the broken bridge, a little girl with a large bouquet of roses in her arms suddenly came out of the crowd and blocked their way. She looked up at Lu Chen and said, "Today is Valentine's Day. Your girlfriend is so beautiful. Why don't you buy her a bouquet of roses?" Her serious expression seemed to accuse Lu Chen of his heinous crimes. Chen Fei couldn't help but laugh. She knew that it was just a marketing trick, but she was still very happy. Lu Chen deliberately teased the little girl. "How do you know she's beautiful?" Chen Fei had covered herself up tightly, only showing her eyes and nose, so her real face couldn't be seen. The little girl said very seriously, "You are so handsome. This big sister must be a beauty with a handsome guy." Even Lu Chen was amused. "How much do you sell your flowers for?" Looking at the cute girl in front of him, Lu Chen couldn't help but think of last year's Valentine's Day. Last Valentine's Day he and Chen Fei had spent it in Xiangjiang. He remembered that at that time, they had also met a flower seller on the streets of Xiangjiang and bought a basket of roses. The little girl replied, "1 stick is 10 yuan, a bunch of 11 sticks is 100 yuan." At the same time, She blinked her big black eyes and looked at Lu Chen with anticipation. Chen Fei was a little more cautious and asked, "Little girl, aren't your parents worried about you selling flowers alone?" The little girl turned her head and pointed to a couple pushing a flower cart by the side of the broken bridge. "They're over there." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Take us there. I'll buy more." It was freezing outside, and it was the 29th day of the Lunar New Year. A family coming to the broken bridge to sell flowers was undoubtedly to make a living. Seeing that the little girl's face was red from the cold, he couldn't help but feel pity for her. Okay. The little girl knew that she had caught a big business, so she agreed crisply. The flower cart was a tricycle. There were 4 or 5 plastic buckets on the board, all of which were bunches of packaged roses. The couple were selling enthusiastically, but business was not very good. "Mom, this brother said he wants to buy a lot of roses." The little girl selling flowers came over with Lu Chen and shouted happily. The middle-aged man was surprised and quickly asked, "Hello, how many roses do you need? If there are a lot, we can give you a discount and free packaging." Lu Chen asked, "How many roses do you have here?" "How many?" The middle-aged man looked at the roses in the cart awkwardly, and then counted the roses in his daughter's hand. He was stunned. His wife reacted quickly. "More than 500, less than 600, about 570 or 80. Lu Chen nodded. "I want all of them. How much is it?" "All of them?" The couple suddenly showed a look of surprise. They had met the legendary local tyrant. The middle-aged man said, "If you want all of them, you can give me 5,000. When he said this number, he was uneasy. After all, the purchase price was less than 1/3. Lu Chen said with a smile, 5,000 is fine. Can I use QQ transfer?" He didn't have so much cash on him, but it was very common to use mobile phone to pay now. Even the tea eggs had a payment QR code. Therefore, there was no problem with QQ transfer. Lu Chen took a rose and said to the couple, "I want this one. You can help me give away the rest here." When they heard Lu Chen say, "I want this one," the couple were dumbfounded. They thought they had been fooled, and then they were dumbfounded. Give them all away? It wasn't until Lu Chen transferred 5,000 yuan with his mobile phone that they woke up from a dream. Knowing that Lu Chen wasn't joking, they quickly agreed. Lu Chen handed the rose in his hand to Chen Fei, and said with a smile, "Happy Valentine's Day, dear." Chen Fei smiled sweetly and took the rose. Her eyes were full of emotion. The crowd quickly gathered around, not because they found out the identity of the two, but because the free rose distribution began. All the couples who passed the broken bridge received a flower symbolizing love. There was a lingering fragrance in the hand of giving roses. Lu Chen pulled Chen Fei, and quietly withdrew from the crowded crowd with happiness. The Mercedes-Benz driven by Zhang Xiaofeng was waiting by the broken bridge. After they got in the car, they went straight to Hangzhou Airport. Tomorrow was New Year's Eve. Because Lu Chen and Chen Fei were going to participate in the Spring Festival Gala, they booked a ticket to return to Beijing tonight. Now the time was just right. On the way to the airport, Zhang Xiaofeng turned on the car radio. "Welcome to FM 103.7 City Voice Radio. Today is Valentine's Day, well, a very special day." The host's soft voice, accompanied by soft music, spread in the car. "Here I wish all couples can love each other for a lifetime. In addition, I also want to give 2 Valentine's Day songs to all the listeners who are still single, including myself. First is Single Love Song from Lu Chen." Lu Chen and Chen Fei couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Chen Fei gently leaned her head on Lu Chen's shoulder. "I who can't hold on to love, always watch it slip away. There are happy people everywhere in the world. Why can't I be one of them? For the sake of love. I have long suffered enough of the pain of love. There are people who are lost in love everywhere. Love, the more frustrated you are, the stronger you become. Love, you must be persistent. Every single person must see through it. If you want to love, don't be afraid of pain." Note: Single Love Song lyricist, Yijiafu/composer, Chen Yaochuan. Chapter 794. The new Mercedes-Benz worth 2.7 million has excellent sound insulation. There is almost no noise when driving on the road. The standard car stereo is even more high-end, accurately restoring the digital music played by the FM radio station. Find a dear person you love the most, love deeply, and want to love. To say goodbye to being single. A passionate, infatuated, heartless and ruthless person. To give me scars. There are so many sad people. This single love song was recorded by Lu Chen in the recording studio of Chunfei Media headquarters a few days ago. It was first released on Wave's blog last night. It was a new song customized for Valentine's Day, for all fans who were still single on Valentine's Day. Although Lu Chen has long since got rid of his singleness, and has a heavenly queen girlfriend and sweet love that everyone envies, but for this special work he still poured considerable emotion into it and sang the style of the work. Rich but not dignified, smooth but not mediocre, pleasant but not seeking credit. This song truly sang the pursuit and desire of those single people for love. It was both tender and delicate, and wild and unrestrained. The style of the song leaned towards rock and roll, which easily resonated with the audience. This song, Single Love Song, also shows Lu Chen's singing skills incisively and vividly. To a certain extent, it is also his dazzling work, especially the interpretation of the climax of the song, which makes people's hearts tremble when they listen to it. Especially on a day like Valentine's Day, hearing such a song, whether it was unloved in love or in love, everyone would have their own feelings. It was worth mentioning that as a special new song for Valentine's Day, the studio version of Single Love Song, released by Lu Chen on his blog, broke through 1 million downloads in just 2 hours, and now it has reached more than 5 million. The praise was overwhelming. Because it was a genuine free download, the speed of dissemination was naturally extremely fast. It was normal to hear this song on Hangzhou's radio station. This is Single Love Song from Lu Chen. I hope everyone likes it. I'm Sujia, the host of FM 103. 7 City Voice Radio Music accompany you. I'm here to accompany all the single people to celebrate this Valentine's Day. I hope you can find your true love in the new year. Alright, the next song, is also very special. This song is also Lu Chen's new work, but it's not sung by him. It's his. The host of the radio station kept everyone in suspense, but he quickly revealed the mystery. I think everyone should know or have guessed it. The second song was written and composed by Lu Chen and sung by Chen Feier. It's Valentine's Day Without a Lover, hee hee. The hostess with a soft and beautiful voice smiled happily. A single love song, and a Valentine's Day without a lover. Don't you think that the Valentine's Day gifts given to us by this pop music superstar couple are very special? Of course, some people will say that this is rubbing salt in our wounds. Don't cry, I'm here with you. Hearing this, Lu Chen couldn't help but laugh. He said to Chen Feier, "This guy is interesting." Chen Feier tilted his head and pondered. Sujia? I think I've heard this name before. The music started. Valentine's Day without a lover, there will be a feeling of loneliness, for the person you loved doesn't understand, and the longing is still in your heart. Valentine's Day without a lover. Unexpectedly receiving a card of comfort. I think the heart that loved has found out. Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Valentine's Day. I only hear sad music. Compared with Lu Chen's Single Love Song, this, Valentine's Day Without a Lover, had a very different style. It was a graceful memory with a touch of sadness, and through the interpretation of Chen Feier's angelic voice, it seemed to sing into the depths of people's souls. Lu Chen gently held Chen Feier in his arms and quietly listened to the song, unaware of the passage of time. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another year was about to pass. On the night of Chinese New Year's Eve, hundreds of millions of people, including overseas Chinese, had a sumptuous New Year's Eve dinner and set off fireworks and firecrackers. Then, they stayed in front of their TVs or computers to watch the live broadcast of the Spring Festival Gala of the Year of the Dog. The bright moon shines above the sea, and we share this moment together. Ever since the Spring Festival Gala appeared on the screens of Central TV, this large-scale variety gala had become an indispensable New Year's Eve meal for the Chinese people, and it was known as the New Year's custom. After watching the Spring Festival Gala, the year was finally over. After New Year's Eve was the first day of the Lunar New Year. After tasting the feast of the Spring Festival Gala, everyone naturally had to comment on it. Whether it was good or bad, it had become a tradition today. Among them, The most active were naturally the various media outlets. Just after New Year's Eve, topics related to the Spring Festival Gala were everywhere. Some discussed the programs, some commented on the celebrities, and some discussed the rankings. But the most important thing was the audience's reputation. In recent years, the ratings and reputation of the Spring Festival Gala had been deteriorating. Although its status as the top gala was unshakable, the criticism from the media and the audience was endless, and it even became more and more intense. Commercial advertisements, lip-syncing corporate New Year's greetings, the host's insincere smile, and some of the language programs that were not clever and funny, and so on, had become a part of the vulgarization of the Spring Festival Gala. In particular, the language programs lacked innovation and plagiarized a large number of online jokes, which made the young audience tired of the aesthetic. All kinds of complaints were made, and it was quite embarrassing. In fact, it was not only the language programs. Even the song programs were not much better. Although the invited celebrities were all big names, they were always singing old songs, and it was difficult for new works to stand out, which made it hard for the audience to be excited. What made the Spring Festival Gala go from New Year's vulgarity to new vulgarity? There might be more than one answer. Central TV was also facing great pressure, so they specially invited Chun Guoji for the Year of the Dog's Spring Festival Gala. They tried to use this great director's experience and new perspective to reverse the situation. If the Spring Festival Gala was an extremely difficult test, then what kind of answer would Chun Guoji hand in? After Central TV announced the news last year, the media's attention was focused on him. Some people thought that Chun Guoji was looking for trouble. There was no need to get involved with a hot potato like the Spring Festival Gala. Some people also thought that Chun Guoji should be able to bring something new to the Spring Festival Gala. Perhaps there would be a surprise. After all, this great director was good at creating miracles, and his works often surprised people. But regardless of whether they were optimistic or not, what everyone hoped for was to be able to enjoy a gala that would make people feel happy. And now that the audience's marking was over and the results were announced, whether Chun Guoji would be able to keep his reputation or not would depend on the media's headlines today. Note: Valentine's Day Without a Lover lyrics. Huang Yixiong/composer. Lu Zhenhuang that you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.